Hello guys, welcome to Saiyan What Ifs. So in this video, we will see, what if Goku defied the Grand Priest? If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1. The Forbidden Truth. The impact crater stretched nearly half a mile wide, earth and rock displaced in a perfect circle as if a god had pressed a thumb into the mountain's peak. At its center, Goku stood motionless, his silver-white hair undulating like liquid mercury despite the absence of wind. Ultra instinct had evolved within him again, but this time something was fundamentally different. Cosmic awareness flooded his consciousness, billions of energy signatures from across the multiverse suddenly perceptible, countless timelines visible like threads in an impossibly vast tapestry. It wasn't merely power that coursed through him, it was understanding on a scale that threatened to overwhelm his mortal mind. "Something's wrong," he whispered, his voice resonating strangely in the thin mountain air. "The pattern, it doesn't make sense." For the briefest moment, his heightened perception detected a ripple in reality itself, a deliberate distortion emanating from the highest realm of existence. Before he could focus on this anomaly, the silver glow surrounding his body flickered and faded. Goku dropped to one knee, suddenly exhausted but troubled by what he'd glimpsed. That night, as he slept beside the dying embers of his campfire, dreams unlike any he'd experienced before invaded his mind. Not the typical fragmented images of battle or training, but visions with crystalline clarity, memories that couldn't possibly be his own. He saw universes erased not by Zeno's childlike whim but according to a meticulously calculated design. He witnessed timelines not naturally diverging but surgically altered. And behind it all, orchestrating these cosmic manipulations with terrifying precision, stood the Grand Priest. Goku awoke with a gasp, sweat beading on his forehead despite the mountain chill. The dreams clung to him with unusual persistence, feeling more like revelations than nightmares. "Those weren't dreams," he muttered, watching his breath cloud in the pre-dawn air. "That was something trying to reach me." 3 days later, Goku stood before Beerus and Whis, having requested an urgent meeting. The god of destruction lounged indolently on his floating chair, tail swishing with irritation at having his nap disturbed. "This better be worth my time, Saiyan," Beerus growled, fangs briefly visible. "Not every mortal gets a personal audience whenever they please." Whis maintained his perpetual serene smile, but his eyes betrayed subtle curiosity. "Indeed, you seem rather troubled, Goku. Has something happened during your training?" Goku's usual carefree demeanor had been replaced by something rarely seen, focused intensity that commanded attention even from divine beings. "When I reached the new level of Ultra Instinct, I saw something I wasn't supposed to see," Goku explained. His tone measured. "There are inconsistencies in the timelines, deliberate ones. And I need to understand why." Beerus's ears twitched with sudden alertness. "Careful, Goku. Some questions aren't meant for mortals to ask." "Perhaps," Whis interjected with forced lightness, tapping his staff twice against the ground, "you're simply experiencing the disorientation that owns with accessing higher planes of consciousness. Even gods sometimes misinterpret what they perceive across the cosmic spectrum." But Goku noticed something he would have missed before, the nearly imperceptible tightening of Whis' grip on his staff, the fractional delay before his response. The angel was deflecting. "I need to visit the time nest," Goku stated firmly. "It wasn't a request." "Absolutely not," Beerus snapped, rising from his chair. "The Supreme Kai of Time doesn't entertain visitors on a whim, especially not mortals questioning the structure of reality itself." "I wasn't asking permission." Goku's power flared subtly, not as a threat but as a reminder of how far he'd evolved. "Something's wrong with the multiverse, and I'm going to find out what. With or without your help." The declaration hung in the air between them, reshaping the relationship that had existed for years. Beerus and Whis exchanged a glance laden with unspoken communication. "You realize," Whis said finally, his voice unusually solemn, "that pursuing this matter may draw attention from entities far beyond my lord's authority?" Goku nodded once. "I do." "Very well," Whis sighed. "I cannot take you to the time nest directly. That would constitute direct interference." But I can tell you that temporal disturbances have recently been detected near the boundary between universes 6 and 7. Perhaps starting your investigation there would be productive. As Goku prepared to depart, Beerus approached him with uncharacteristic seriousness. You've always been reckless, Saiyan, the destruction god muttered, ensuring Whis couldn't overhear. But this goes beyond challenging strong opponents for the thrill of battle. If you're right about what you've seen, be careful who you trust. Even those who appear most loyal have their own masters. Quote, with that cryptic warning echoing in his mind, Goku used instant transmission to return to Earth and prepare for his journey to the universal boundary. The RDER between universes 6 and 7 existed as theoretical space rather than physical location. Accessing it required precise energy manipulation that even most supreme Kais couldn't achieve. Yet as Goku focused his ki in the exact pattern Whis had subtly demonstrated, reality itself seemed to fold around him like origami in expert hands. The transition wasn't smooth. Unlike instant transmission's seamless jump, this passage felt like being simultaneously compressed and stretched across dimensions never meant for mortal traversal. When the disorientation subsided, Goku found himself floating in a realm unlike any he'd encountered before. Suspended all around him were crystalline fragments that resembled shattered glass, each containing frozen moments from different timelines. Some showed familiar events, the Tournament of Power, battles with Frieza, Majin Buu's rampage, while others displayed versions of history he'd never experienced. Most disturbing were the fragments showing universes and beings that had been completely erased from existence, preserved only in this strange boundary realm. As he drifted among these temporal shards, Goku noticed one that seemed to pulse with unusual energy. Within it, he saw himself fighting a version of Jiren he'd never encountered, utilizing techniques he'd never learned. Reaching toward it instinctively, his fingers brushed the crystalline surface. The shard shattered on contact, its energy surging into Goku with violent force. His mind flooded with knowledge, techniques, experiences, memories belonging to another version of himself. One who discovered a terrible truth and paid the ultimate price. When the transfer completed, Goku gasped for breath, processing information that rewrote his understanding of reality. The Grand Priest hadn't merely been observing the multiverse, he had been actively reshaping it, eliminating timelines where certain knowledge spread too far or where divine authority was successfully challenged. Fascinating. You absorbed that fragment's essence completely. Most beings would have been obliterated by such an attempt. The voice came from behind him, melodic yet ancient. Goku turned to find a woman floating amidst the temporal shards, studying him with eyes that contained galaxies. Her silver-white hair flowed around her as if underwater, and symbols of forgotten divine language adorned her pale blue skin. Who are you? Goku asked, instinctively dropping into a defensive stance. Someone who, like you, has seen beyond the veil. The woman drifted closer, her movements unnaturally fluid. My name was struck from the cosmic record when my universe was erased, but in the language of mortals, you may call me Syria. You're a supreme Kai, Goku realized, recognizing the distinct energy signature despite its unfamiliar variations. But different from any I've met. Syria's lips curved into a smile that held more sorrow than humor. I was the supreme Kai of creation for Universe 18, eliminated. In the first Great Purge, long before your universe was even aware of Xeno's existence. How did you survive? By sacrificing much of my divine essence to exist partially outside normal spacetime. She gestured to the crystalline fragments surrounding them. I've spent millennia collecting these memory shards, preserving what little remains of erased realities and searching for someone capable of challenging the current order. Suspicion flickered across Goku's face. And you think that's me? Why would I trust you? You shouldn't, Syria replied bluntly. Trust is a luxury for those who haven't witnessed cosmic betrayal. But you will need allies, Son Goku, and I offer knowledge no living being possesses. She extended her hand, where a small crystalline key materialized. This will grant you access to the cosmic archives, where the unaltered history of all universes is preserved. What's the catch? Goku asked, making no move to accept the key. Syria's expression darkened. The archives are hidden in a pocket dimension directly beneath the Grand Priest's domain. Accessing them will alert him to your investigation. Once you use this key, there will be no returning to your former life. Goku considered her words carefully. The old Goku would have grabbed the key without hesitation, eager for the next challenge. But the memories he'd absorbed from the timeline shard had changed. Shown him consequences beyond personal risk. There are people I need to protect, he said finally. My family, my friends, will be targeted regardless once the Grand Priest realizes what you've seen, Syria interrupted. The question isn't whether confrontation will come, Goku, but whether you'll face it prepared or ignorant. After a long moment, Goku reached out and took the key. It pull, said with energy that resonated with his own, acknowledging him as its bearer. Before we proceed, Syria added, there is a tournament being held in Universe 6 that may interest you. A gathering of warriors from across dimensions, including some who have glimpsed fragments of the truth. It would be prudent to assess potential allies before we venture further. Goku nodded, tucking the key into his GI. Lead the way. The planet Sadala of Universe 6 hummed with anticipation. Warriors from across the cosmos had gathered for the Multiversal Combat Summit, ostensibly organized by Champa as a friendly competition but secretly serving more complex purposes. The stadium carved from ancient red stone could seat hundreds of thousands, and today it was filled to capacity with spectators eager to witness battles between legendary fighters. Goku and Syria materialized on a viewing platform reserved for distinguished guests, their arrival drawing immediate attention from the Saiyan honor guards stationed at its perimeter. Identify yourselves, demanded the captain, her hand already glowing with concentrated ki. Before Goku could respond, a familiar figure emerged from the interior chamber, Hit, the legendary assassin. Looking exactly as Goku remembered him. Stand down, Hit ordered the guards. This is Son Goku of Universe 7. He's expected. The guards withdrew reluctantly, and Hit approached with his usual measured stride. You've changed, the assassin noted, his piercing gaze taking in Goku's altered energy signature. Time flows differently around you now. Goku smiled, genuinely pleased to see his old rival. Good to see you too, Hit. I didn't know I was expected. You weren't. Not by Champa, at least. Hit's eyes shifted briefly to Syria, narrowing slightly. Interesting company you keep these days, Saiyan. I could say the same, Goku replied, nodding toward a hooded figure watching them intently from across the stadium, someone whose energy pattern Goku couldn't quite identify despite his enhanced senses. Hit allowed a rare half-smile. The tournament has drawn many with unusual abilities, including several you might find enlightening. He turned toward the arena. Your timing is fortunate. The preliminary rounds have concluded, and the main competition begins shortly. You've been added to the roster. I didn't come here to fight, Goku started, but Syria placed a gentle hand on his arm. Yes, actually, we did, she corrected. The battle arena creates a temporal isolation field, one of the few places we can speak freely without certain entities observing. Hit nodded once. Precisely. Your match begins in 20 minutes. Your opponent has been anticipating this meeting for some time. With that cryptic statement, he disappeared using his time skip ability. Left alone with Syria on the viewing platform, Goku frowned. You could have mentioned this tournament was part of your plan. Some paths are better walked without foreknowledge, Syria replied, her eyes tracking movement in the arena below, especially when temporal manipulation is involved. Now, observe the current match carefully, the female Saiyan with the gold-streaked hair. She will be significant to your journey. In the arena below, two fighters engaged in combat that transcended physical limitations. One was a hulking crystalline being whose body refracted energy attacks like a prism. The other was a woman with the unmistakable features of a Saiyan, wild black hair streaked with gold, dark skin adorned with intricate runic markings, and movements that spoke of formal martial training rather than brute Saiyan aggression. What captured Goku's attention wasn't just her fighting prowess but her technique. She didn't simply generate ki blasts, she transformed them, weapon G energy into complex patterns that behaved according to her will rather than natural laws. When the crystalline being fired a massive beam attack, the female Saiyan didn't dodge or counter, she caught the energy, reshaped it, and returned it as a swarm of energy constructs that attacked from multiple angles simultaneously. Her name is Tora, Syria explained quietly. Last descendant of the Saiyan. Mystical sect that was purged from Universe 6 history on direct orders from above. She practices key arts predating modern techniques, arts deemed too dangerous for mortals to possess. She's incredible, Goku murmured, watching as Tora defeated her opponent with a final technique that temporarily inverted gravity within the arena. As Tora was declared victor, her gaze lifted directly to Goku's position. Eyes narrowing with recognition though they'd never met. She made a subtle gesture with her left hand, a symbol Goku somehow understood meant, "The Watcher awaits," in ancient Saiyan sign language. Knowledge that must have come from the timeline fragment he'd absorbed. Before Goku could respond, an announcement echoed through the stadium. Final preliminary match. Son Goku of Universe 7 vs Cypher of the Null Zone. The crowd erupted in surprised murmurs at Goku's name. His reputation had clearly preceded him. Who or what is Cypher? Goku asked Syria as he prepared to teleport to the arena floor. Someone carrying a piece of what you seek, she answered enigmatically. Remember, in this tournament, victory isn't always achieved through defeating your opponent. With that puzzling advice, Goku transported himself to the arena's center, where his opponent was already waiting. Cypher appeared as a humanoid figure composed of shifting darkness punctuated by points of light like stars. Face concealed behind a mask of obsidian. When they spoke, their voice resonated with multiple tones simultaneously. The fragment bearer arrives, Cypher stated, circling Goku slowly. Carrying memories not his own. Seeking truths not meant for his kind. The referee signaled the match start, but neither combatant moved to attack. Instead, Cypher raised a hand, and the arena around them seemed to blur. Sound from the crowd becoming muffled as if heard through water. Temporal privacy field, Cypher explained. We have approximately 3 minutes before the Grand Priest's observers notice the anomaly. Who are you? Goku demanded. And what do you know about what I've seen? I am what remains when universes are erased incompletely, Cypher replied. Fragments of consciousness, purpose, and knowledge fused into new existence. As for what you've seen, merely the surface of the deception. Without warning, Cypher launched forward with blinding speed, their form dissolving into streams of darkness that surrounded Goku from all angles. Rather than defending, Goku allowed the darkness to envelop him, instinctively understanding this was communication rather than attack. Within the darkness, information transferred directly into Goku's consciousness, coordinates, access codes, and warnings about cosmic surveillance systems. Most importantly, he received confirmation that the Grand Priest had indeed been systematically altering timelines to maintain a specific version of reality. When the darkness receded, Goku and Cypher stood facing each other once more, the exchange having taken less than a second in objective time. The archive entrance will be accessible for 12 hours when the temporal nexus experiences its monthly fluctuation, Cypher stated. That occurs tomorrow. You'll need someone who can manipulate primordial ki to bypass the final security measures. Goku's gaze flicked toward Tora, who watched intently from the competitor's area. Someone like her. Precisely. Cypher's form began destabilizing, the temporal privacy field weakening around them. One last warning. What you discover in the archives will force you to choose between truth and everything you believe about the cosmic order. Few minds can withstand such paradigm shifts intact. With that, Cypher dissolved completely, their match officially recorded as a forfeit. As Goku stood alone in the center of the arena, the crowd's reaction was mixed. Disappointment at being denied a proper battle competing with awe at the mysterious circumstances. The tournament announcer, clearly flustered, declared Goku the winner by default and announced a short intermission. As Goku made his way back to the viewing platform, he was intercepted by Tora, who fell into step beside him with casual confidence. So you're the one who's been causing ripples across the temporal plane, she said without preamble, her voice carrying the distinctive Sadala accent with its rolling consonants. I thought you'd be taller. Despite the situation's gravity, Goku found himself smiling. Sorry to disappoint. Oh, I didn't say I was disappointed. Tora's eyes gleamed with something between amusement and assessment. The ancient texts describe the boundary breaker as unassuming in form, unfathomable in essence. You fit that description well enough. Boundary breaker, Goku questioned as they entered a corridor leading away from the main arena. Tora glanced around before responding, confirming they were alone. An ancient Saiyan prophecy about one who would challenge the divine architecture itself. Most dismissed it as primitive mythology. But my clan preserved the original texts. She pushed up her sleeve, revealing intricate markings that matched the timeline fragments Goku had seen. These aren't decorative. They're a recorded history predating the current universal structure. Before Goku could inquire further, the air before them distorted, and a small robotic sphere materialized, projecting a holographic message. The face that appeared belonged to Champa, god of destruction for Universe 6. Son Goku, Champa's projection snarled, your unauthorized presence at my tournament constitutes a territorial violation. Report to my viewing box immediately for questioning, or face destruction. You have 5 minutes to comply. The projection vanished, leaving the robot hovering expectantly. That's not actually Champa, Tora stated flatly. The energy signature is wrong. Goku nodded, having sensed the same discrepancy. Someone wants to isolate me. Definitely. Tora cracked her knuckles with deliberate casualness. Fortunately, I have a particular talent for dealing with interdimensional forgeries. She turned to Goku with unexpected intensity. But before we proceed, I need to know if you're committed to this path. Challenging the cosmic hierarchy isn't something done halfway. Once you cross this line, every divine entity in existence becomes a potential enemy. For a moment, Goku was silent, weighing everything he'd learned against everything he'd believed. When he finally spoke, his voice carried absolute conviction. The truth matters more than comfortable lies, he stated simply. If the multiverse is built on deception, then it needs to change, no matter who stands in the way. Tora's expression softened momentarily, something like relief crossing her features. Hen, we should find your friend Syria and prepare for what comes next. The tournament was never the real objective, it was the perfect distraction for what's happening on the other side of Sadala right now. Which is what exactly? Tora's smile turned predatory. The theft of an artifact that's been guarded by false gods for millennia, the chronoprism. With it, we can enter the cosmic archives without alerting the Grand Priest. Half a world away from the tournament grounds, within an ancient temple buried beneath Sadala's northern mountains, Syria stood before an energy barrier that hummed with divine power. Behind it floated a crystalline pyramid, the chronoprism, casting prismatic light patterns across the chamber's stone walls. The security measures are more complex than anticipated, she murmured to herself. Fingers tracing glyphs in the air as she analyzed the barrier's structure. Multiple divine signatures intertwined, this will require precision. A sudden shift in the air behind her caused Syria to spin around. Hands already glowing with defensive energy, only to find herself facing a woman in a practical jumpsuit adorned with technological enhancements. Dark hair pulled CK in a severe ponytail framed a face marked by intelligence and the subtle lines of someone who frowned in concentration too often. Don't bother with the energy decryption, the newcomer said, adjusts. Ting something on the mechanical gauntlet covering her right forearm. The barrier uses a quadratic divine authentication protocol. Breaking it through conventional means would alert every Kai in 3 universes. Syria didn't lower her defensive stance. You speak with surprising authority about divine security systems for a mortal. Dr. Alara Voss, theoretical physicist and interdimensional security specialist. The woman introduced herself with clipped efficiency. And you're a former Supreme Kai from an erased universe, which makes this conversation highly improbable yet strangely inevitable given recent timeline convergences. Quote, before Syria could respond, Alara's gauntlet projected a 3-dimensional schematic of the barrier, highlighting its structural weaknesses. I've been tracking G anomalies in the cosmic background radiation for 3 years, Alara continued, approaching the barrier with professional interest. It led me to discover discrepancies in the officially sanctioned universal history. When I built a device to probe these inconsistencies, I accidentally breached the dimensional barrier and found myself, well, everywhere at once, before stabilizing here. UCR, EDIT interdimensional travel technology as a human. Syria couldn't hide her astonishment. Alara shrugged. Technically I created a quantum observation device. The interdimensional travel was an unexpected side effect. She tapped her gauntlet against the energy barrier, which responded with a harmonious tone. I can disable this without triggering alarms, but I'll need something in return. You're in no position to negotiate. Syria pointed out. On the contrary, Alara countered calmly. I've already sent the barrier's frequency pattern to my equipment back in Universe 7. If I don't deactivate that transmission in the next 3 minutes, the data goes public, causing exactly the kind of attention you're trying to avoid. Their standoff was interrupted by Goku and Tora materializing in the chamber via instant transmission. Sorry we're late, Goku said, quickly assessing the situation. Tournament security got complicated. He noticed Alara and tilted his head curiously. Who's this? Dr. Alara Voss. Syria answered with resignation. Apparently a human who's managed to breach dimensional barriers through technology alone. She's offering assistance in exchange for, what exactly, Doctor? Access to the cosmic archives, Alara stated without hesitation. The same place you're planning to go with that. She nodded toward the chronoprism. I need to understand what's happening to the multiverse. And why my equations show it's heading toward systemic collapse within the next century. Tora stepped forward, studying Alara with undisguised suspicion. Humans shouldn't be capable of the calculations necessary to predict multiversal stability. Yet here we are, Alara replied dryly. Time's wasting, and that barrier isn't getting any weaker. Do we have a deal or not? Goku looked to Syria, who gave a reluctant nod. We could use technological expertise, she admitted. Especially if we're infiltrating a facility designed by the Grand Priest himself. Done, Goku decided, extending his hand to Alara. Welcome aboard, Doctor. As they shook hands, Alara's expression remained professionally detached, but Goku caught a flicker of something deeper in her eyes, the look of someone who had searched too long for answers and finally found a path forward. Now, Tora interjected, about that barrier. Alara approached the energy field confidently, attaching small Devi CES to specific points around its perimeter. These are quantum resonance disruptors. They'll temporarily create a localized phase shift, allowing us to extract the chronoprism without deactivating the barrier itself. She glanced at the others. When I give the signal, Goku needs to reach in and grab the prism. His enhanced key control should protect him from the temporal backlash. Temporal backlash? Goku questioned. The chronoprism exists partially outside normal time, Syria explained. Touching it causes a feedback loop that can age a normal being to dust in seconds. Comforting, Goku muttered, but positioned himself near the barrier nonetheless. Alara activated her devices, which emitted a high-pitched harmonic tone. The barrier rippled like water, a small opening forming at its center. Now, Alara commanded. Goku thrust his hand through the opening, fingers closing around the chronoprism. Immediately, energy surged up his arm, not painful but intensely disorienting, as countless possible timelines flashed through his consciousness simultaneously. With supreme effort, he withdrew the artifact and stepped back, the barrier resealing seamlessly behind it. The chronoprism pulsed in Goku's hand, its internal light synchronizing with his heartbeat. Everyone stared at the legendary artifact with varying expressions of awe and apprehension. So, Goku broke the silence, we have what we came for. What's our next move? The tournament concludes tomorrow with the championship matches, Tora said. That gives us approximately 18 hours before Champa, the real one, realizes something's amiss. We should use the chronoprism to access the archives during the temporal nexus fluctuation, as Cypher suggested. Agreed, Syria nodded, but we need a secure location to prepare. The Grand Priest may already be aware of disturbances in the cosmic energy field. Alara tapped her gauntlet, projecting a 3-dimensional map. I've identified a location in the space between Universes 6 and 7, a pocket dimension with natural interference patterns that should mask our presence temporarily. My equipment is already there. As they prepared to depart, an alarm suddenly blared throughout the temple. And the stone floor beneath them trembled. That's not a standard security protocol, Tora said, her body tensing. That's a divine incursion, Syria finished, her face paling. Someone's coming, someone powerful. The temple's central chamber doors burst open, and a figure floated through, an angel, similar to Whis in appearance but female, with pale lavender hair and a staff topped with a crescent symbol. Unlike the typically serene expression of angels, her face showed subtle signs of distress. You need to leave immediately, she stated without preamble, her melodic voice carrying authority despite its urgency. The Grand Priest has dispatched enforcers to this location. They'll arrive in approximately 43 seconds. Goku stepped forward cautiously. Who are you? Vesper, angel attendant to the god of destruction for Universe 13, she answered quickly. A universe that officially doesn't exist. She pointed her staff at the chronoprism. That artifact, Chi, will lead you to truths that have been hidden for countless millennia, Son Goku. Truths that some of us have been preserving in secret, waiting for one with the strength to challenge the established order. Why would an angel help us? Tora demanded suspiciously. Because not all divine beings support the Grand Priest's methods, Vesper replied, a flash of genuine emotion crossing her features. Something that should be impossible for an angel. Now go. I'll create a diversion, but you must reach the archives before the next cycle begins. The temple shuddered more violently, dust raining from the ancient ceiling. Goku, Alara urged, we need your instant transmission. Now. Without further hesitation, Goku gathered the three women close, concentrating on the coordinates Alara had provided. As they began to fade from the chamber, Vesper gave them one final warning. Trust nothing you've been told about the cosmic hierarchy, she called out. Everything you believe about gods, angels, and the structure of reality itself is built upon carefully constructed lies. Then they were gone, leaving Vesper alone to face whatever was approaching. The pocket dimension Alara had discovered resembled an abandoned laboratory, equipment of unknown origin scattered among crystalline formations that grew from both floor and ceiling. The air shimmered with refractive patterns, and occasionally, objects would phase partially out of existence before reappearing. Temporal instability is high here, Alara explained, moving immediately to a workstation she'd clearly established earlier. Makes Chi perfect for our purposes. Divine observation has difficulty maintaining focus in such conditions. Goku placed the chronoprism carefully on a crystalline pedestal at the room's center, where it immediately began to interact with the surrounding formations, colors shifting within its structure. It's beautiful, he murmured, watching light patterns dance across its faces. And incredibly dangerous, Syria added, keeping a respectful distance. The chronoprism doesn't merely record time, it actively reshapes it on a localized scale. In the wrong hands, it could rewrite history itself. Tora approached a wall covered in Alara's notes and diagrams, complex mathematical formulas alongside what appeared to be star charts of impossible configurations. Your calculations are impressive for a human, she acknowledged reluctantly. Though your understanding of key harmonics is rudimentary at best. And your understanding of quantum mechanics is practically Stone Age, Alara retorted without looking up from her work. Yet somehow we both reached the same conclusion about multiversal instability. Despite the tension, Goku noticed the two women soon fell into scientific discussion, Tora's Misty Cal approach complementing Alara's technical expertise in unexpected ways. Meanwhile, Syria studied the chronoprism with ancient eyes, occasionally murmuring in a language that made reality itself seem to bend around her words. Taking advantage of this momentary reprieve, Goku moved to a quiet corner of the dimension and closed his eyes, sorting through the overwhelming influx of information he'd received. The fragment memories, Cypher's warnings, Vesper's appearance, all pieces of a puzzle he couldn't quite assemble. Struggling to integrate it all, Syria's voice interrupted his meditation. She had approached silently, now standing beside him with arms crossed. There's too much, Goku admitted. Too many conflicting versions of reality. That's by design, Syria explained, her voice soft, teeming with what might have been compassion. The Grand Priest's most effective deception isn't creating false information, it's creating so many variations of truth that no mind can determine which is authentic. Goku opened his eyes, studying the former Supreme Kai carefully. Why are you helping me? Really? Syria's ageless face showed a flash of vulnerability. Because I watched my entire universe, trillions of souls, countless civilizations, beings I had guided for millions of years, erased on a whim. Not because they failed some cosmic test of worth, but because they began asking questions about the nature of divine authority. Her voice hardened, and because you, Son Goku, possess something none before you have combined, the power to challenge gods and the heart to do it for the right reasons. Before Goku could respond, Alara called out from her workstation. The temporal nexus fluctuation has begun. We have approximately 20 minutes to use the chronoprism before the window closes. They gathered around the artifact. which now pulsed with increasing intensity, its internal light swirling in complex patterns. How exactly does this work? Goku asked, eyeing the prism cautiously. It creates a direct pathway to the cosmic archives, Tora explained, bypassing normal dimensional barriers and the Grand Priest's security measures. But it requires specific activation, the Tuk H of someone who exists across multiple timelines simultaneously. All eyes turned to Goku. Your absorption of the timeline fragment has attuned you to multiple reality streams, Syria elaborated. You are, in essence, a living temporal anomaly now. That explains the headaches, Goku muttered, then stepped forward resolutely. What do I need to do? Place both hands on the chronoprism and channel your ki into it, not combat energy. But the essence of what makes you yourself, Tora instructed, her voice taking on a formal cadence as if reciting ancient knowledge. The prism will respond to your unique temporal signature. Goku took a deep breath, placed his palms against the crystalline surfaces, and closed his eyes. Instead of focusing on power as he typically would, he concentrated on identity, the core aspects of his being that remained consistent across all possible versions of Son Goku throughout the multiverse. The chronoprism began to spin, slowly at first, then faster until it became a blur of light. The surrounding space warped and stretched, reality itself seeming to fold inward around them. A doorway materialized, not a physical structure but a tear in dimensional fabric, beyond which endless shelves of crystalline records extended into infinity. The cosmic archives, Syria whispered reverently, untouched by revisionist hands, containing the true and complete history of all existence. The doorway will remain stable for 18 minutes, Alara announced, checking readings on her gauntlet. After that, the nexus fluctuation ends, and we'll be forcibly ejected, possibly into separate dimensions. Goku stepped toward the threshold, determination evident in every line of his body. Then we better make every second count. Together, the four unlikely allies entered the cosmic archives, unaware that their actions had already set in motion events that would forever alter the balance of cosmic power, and that the Grand Priest was already moving to intercept them. The cosmic archives defied comprehension. Impossibly vast yet intimately accessible, the space shifted according to the observer's needs. As they ventured deeper, sections reorganized themselves, bringing relevant information within reach as if responding to their unspoken questions. This architecture, Alara murmured in professional awe, its responsive consciousness. The archives themselves are sentient. Not sentient exactly, Syria corrected, trailing her fingers along crystalline shelves that hummed in response. More like cosmically empathic. They exist to preserve truth in its purest form, untainted by perspective or agenda. Goku moved with purpose toward a central chamber that seemed to pull at his consciousness. Within it stood a crystalline pedestal displaying a single record that pulsed in sync with the chronoprism they'd brought. The original covenant, Tora breathed, recognizing the record from ancient Saiyan texts. The foundation agreement upon which the current multiverse was established. Approaching carefully, Goku placed his hand on the record. Information flooded his mind directly, not as words or images but as pure, unfiltered understanding. What he learned made his blood run cold. The Grand Priest, he began, struggling to articulate the enormity of the revelation. He isn't serving Zeno, he's controlling him, has been since the beginning. What? The others gathered closer as Goku continued. Zeno isn't the true Omni King. He's a construct, a powerful one, but designed specifically to be a figurehead. Goku's eyes widened as more information transferred. The original cosmic order was a balanced council of creation and destruction, with no single entity holding absolute power. The Grand Priest engineered a coup, eliminating the council and installing Zeno as a puppet ruler. Quote, "That confirms what I found in my calculations," Alara said, her typically detached demeanor cracking slightly. The multiverse isn't designed for a single point of ultimate authority. It's becoming increasingly unstable under this artificial hierarchy. But why? Tora questioned. What purpose does this deception serve? Goku accessed deeper levels of the record, his expression growing darker. Control. The Grand Priest belongs to an ancient lineage of cosmic architects who believe order can only exist through absolute authority. They view free will as a fundamental flaw in the universal design, one they've been systematically eliminating through timeline manipulations, universe erasures, and selective enforcement of cosmic laws. Syria's face had gone ashen. My universe. We were developing a means for mortals to ascend beyond divine limitations naturally. That's why we were erased first. There's more, Goku continued grimly. The tournament of power, the constant threat of erasure, the rigid enforcement of non-interference policies, they're all designed to prevent beings from different universes from sharing knowledge and potentially discovering this deception. As the full implications sank in, a subtle vibration passed through the archives. Crystalline shelves trembled, and distant alarms began to sound. We've been detected, Alara announced, checking her instruments. Something's attempting to breach the dimensional barriers around the archives. The Grand Priest, Syria confirmed, her divine senses extending outward. And he's not alone. He's brought the full force of the enforcement angels, beings even gods of destruction fear. How much time do we have? Goku demanded. Minutes at most, Tora replied, already gathering energy for defense. We need to leave immediately. Not yet, Goku insisted, turning back to the records. There has to be something here, some weakness, some way to challenge him. His hands move across the crystalline surfaces with increasing urgency, accessing record after record. Alara worked frantically at a nearby console that interfaced with the archive systems. I'm downloading as much data as my equipment can handle. But it's barely a fraction of what's here. Focus on structural weaknesses in the divine hierarchy, Syria instructed, joining Goku in his search. And the origin, cosmic laws, the ones that predate the Grand Priest's revisions. As they worked against time, Tora suddenly called out from a different section. I found something. Records of resistance, previous Chi attempts to challenge the Grand Priest's authority. They rushed to her position, where she stood before a small, easily overlooked shelf containing records that seemed deliberately obscured, their crystalline surfaces clouded and dim. These are histories of beings who discovered the truth and fought back, Tora explained, scanning the records quickly. Most failed, but some managed to ND the system before they were erased from memory. We need those techniques, Goku said, reaching for the records. The archives shuddered more violently, and a deafening crack echoed through the INF. A night space as reality itself began to splinter around them. Too late, Syria warned, her voice tight with fear. He's breaking through. A blinding light erupted at the archives, entrance, and through. It floated the Grand Priest himself, his perpetual smile still in place but his eyes cold with fury. Behind him hovered a dozen angels unlike any they'd seen before, their staffs modified into Weepo. NS and their expressions utterly devoid of emotion. Son Goku, the Grand Priest said pleasantly, as if greeting an expected guest, I must admit, I'm impressed. Few mortals have managed to breach the archives. And none have ever accessed the Covenant records. His smile didn't waver as he continued. Unfortunately, this constitutes a level 1 violation of cosmic law. The penalty is complete erasure, not merely death, but removal from all possible timelines. Goku stepped forward, positioning himself between the Grand Priest and his companions. The only violation here is the lie you've built the multiverse upon, he stated. His voice steady with conviction. You've manipulated reality, erased innocent universes, and kept all beings in ignorance to maintain your control. Control is necessary, the Grand Priest countered calmly. I've witnessed the chaos that unfettered free will brings, the destruction of entire reality streams, the suffering of countless beings. What you perceive as tyranny is merely responsible stewardship. Responsible stewardship doesn't require deception, Goku challenged. If your methods were truly just, you wouldn't need to hide them. Something dangerous flickered in the Grand Priest's eyes, perhaps the first genuine emotion he'd displayed in millennia. You cannot comprehend the complexities of cosmic governance, mortal. Your perspective is limited by your finite existence. Maybe so, Goku acknowledged, his power beginning to build around him in waves of silver-white energy. But I know this much. No one, not even you, has the right to decide that entire universes. Entire timelines of people with their own lives and dreams should be erased simply for asking questions. The Grand Priest sighed, as if disappointed by a child's poor decision. Enforcement angels, secure the intruders and prepare them for timeline extraction. They are to be removed with maximum prejudice. The angels moved forward in perfect synchronization, their weapons gleaming with energy that could erase beings from existence itself. Goku dropped into his fighting stance, Ultra Instinct beginning to manifest around him. "Run," he told his companions. "Take what we've learned and spread the truth. I'll hold them off. We're not leaving you," Tora declared firmly, mystical key forming complex patterns around her hands. "Agreed," Alara added, activating devices on her gauntlets that began interfering with the dimensional space around them. "Besides, my calculations suggest you'll last approximately 2.7 seconds against them alone." Syria stepped forward, her divine energy flaring brighter than it had in millennia. "The archive itself can help us. It preserves truth, and right now, we represent truth against deception." As if responding to her words, the cries, Taline structures around them pulsed with increasing intensity. Records flew from their shelves, orbiting the group in a protective barrier of pure information. The Grand Priest's serene expression finally cracked, showing genuine alarm. "Stop this immediately. The archives must remain neutral." "They are neutral," Goku replied with sudden understanding. "Neutral in favor of truth. And the truth is that your time as the unquestioned authority of the multiverse is over." With that declaration, Goku channeled his energy into the swirling records, creating a feedback loop of power that reverberated throughout the archives. The crystalline barriers between them and the angels intensified, temporarily holding them at bay. "This changes nothing," the Grand Priest stated coldly. "You've merely delayed the inevitable. When you leave this place, and you must, eventually, there will be nowhere in the multiverse you can hide from me." Goku stepped forward, facing the Grand Priest directly across the barrier. The being who had manipulated gods and mortals alike for countless eons, who had erased entire realities to maintain his vision of order, who had remained unchallenged for longer than time itself could measure. "You're right," Goku agreed, his voice carrying the weight of absolute certainty. "This confrontation is inevitable, but it won't happen on your terms, and it won't end the way you expect." His eyes, now shimmering with the silver light of perfected Ultra Instinct, locked with the Grand Priest's. "I formally reject your authority over the multiverse. I deny your right to erase existence. And I promise you this, I will find a way to restore what you've destroyed and create a cosmic order based on truth rather than deception." The Grand Priest's expression transformed completely. Divine mask falling away to reveal cold fury. "You dare defy me, a mere mortal challenging the architect of reality itself. Your arrogance exceeds even my estimation, Son Goku. It's not arrogance to stand for what's right." Goku replied simply, "Even against impossible odds." For a moment, divine and mortal stared at each other across the dimensional barrier, a silent declaration of war that would echo throughout the multiverse. Then the chronoprism, still connected to the temporal nexus, pulsed with blinding intensity. Reality warped around Goku and his allies as the archives respond to the imminent closure of the nexus window. "This isn't over," the Grand Priest warned as they began to fade from the archives. "Your defiance has consequences beyond your comprehension." Goku's response was simply a smile. Not his usual carefree grin, but the determined expression of someone who had found purpose beyond battle for battle's sake. "I'm counting on it," he said, and then they were gone. Transporting through collapsing dimensional barriers as the connection to the archives severed. The Grand Priest remained motionless for several moments, his ancient mind calculating probabilities and potential responses. Finally, he turned to the enforcement angels, who awaited his command. "Initiate Protocol Omega," he ordered calmly, all emotion once again masked behind his perfect veneer. Son Goku has made his choice. Now he will learn what it truly means to defy the cosmic order. Throughout the multiverse, reality itself shuddered in anticipation of the conflict to come. Chapter 2. Realms Beyond. Reality splintered around them like fractured glass, cosmic energies tearing through the spaces between dimensions. The chronoprism's emergency teleportation had saved them from immediate erasure. But now Goku and his companions tumbled through a kaleidoscopic void where the laws of physics existed merely as suggestions. Their bodies stretched and compressed as they passed through dimensional membranes never meant for mortal traversal. Goku reached out instinctively, his fingers closing around Tora's wrist as she began drifting away into a separate reality stream. With his other hand, he He managed to grasp Siria's robes, anchoring the former Supreme Kai to his timeline. Alara, ever practical, had apparently prepared for this contingency. A thin silver tether connected her gauntlet to Goku's GI, preventing her from being lost to the void. Focus on a single point. Siria's voice sounded simultaneously distant and deafeningly close in the interdimensional chaos. Your consciousness is the only constant. Use it as an anchor. Goku closed his eyes, centering his mind as he would during the deepest meditation. The tumbling sensation slowed, the violent energies surrounding them gradually stabilizing. When he opened his eyes again, the four of them were suspended in an eerie twilight realm where stars glowed in impossible colors and the ground beneath them appeared simultaneously solid and transparent. Dimensional intersection point, Alara gasped, checking her instruments with trembling hands. Temporary stability, but, she paused, frowning at the readings. We're not in any of the 12 universes. We've been cast completely outside the established cosmic structure. Tora stumbled as her feet touched the semi-solid ground, her normally perfect balance compromised by the interdimensional transit. That's impossible. Nothing exists beyond the 12 universes except the void. Nothing that you've been taught exists, Siria corrected, her ancient eyes scoffed. NNING their surroundings with careful assessment. But the multiverse contains many secrets deemed too dangerous for general knowledge. Goku moved cautiously forward, senses extended to their limits. This place felt wrong in ways he couldn't articulate, as if reality itself was held together by fraying threads, constantly unraveling and reweaving in patterns that defied comprehension. Yet something about it seemed vaguely familiar. An echo of the knowledge he'd absorbed from the archives. The Null Zone, he said suddenly, the name rising from borrowed memories. That's where we are, isn't it? The place where erased realities continue to exist in fragmented form. Siria nodded grimly. One of many such zones, yes. Pockets of existence that persist despite universal erasure, proof that even Zeno's power has limitations. Or that the Grand Priest's control over erasure is imperfect, Alara added, her scientific mind immediately identifying the implications. Either way, it makes an ideal hiding place. Conventional divine perception can't penetrate the quantum instability. As they spoke, the landscape around them began to stabilize, as if responding to their presence. Fragments of D.F.F. errant realities manifested in patchwork fashion, here a section of crystalline forest, there a stretch of midnight desert beneath triple moons, beyond that a floating archipelago of metallic islands. Each fragment contained pieces of universes that no longer existed, preserved in this half-life state outside normal existence. Tora knelt, pressing her palm against the gradually solidifying ground. The ambient energy here, it's unlike anything I've encountered. Similar to Ki, but more primordial. Her runic markings glowed in response to whatever she sensed. It predates the current universal structure, Siria explained. What you're feeling is the energy from which the original cosmos was formed, before the Grand Priest's revisions. Goku absorbed this information silently, his expression uncharacteristically solemn. The full weight of their situation, of his defiance against the cosmic hierarchy, was finally settling upon him. He had challenged the being who stood above gods, who controlled reality itself. And there would be consequences far beyond his own fate. I've put all of you in danger, he said finally, looking at each of his companions in turn. The Grand Priest won't stop until we're erased from every possible timeline. Alara let out a short, humorless laugh. I was already on the cosmic most wanted list the moment I breached dimensional barriers without authorization. This is just an upgrade in pursuit resources. My universe was erased millennia ago, Siria added softly. I've existed on borrowed time since then, preserving knowledge and waiting for Somio. Nay, willing to challenge the established order. Her ancient eyes met Goku's. You haven't endangered us, Goku. You've given us purpose. Tora straightened from her examination of the ground, her expression fierce. The ancient Saiyan texts speak of this moment, when the boundary breaker would defy false gods and restore the true cosmic order. She approached Goku, studying him with new intensity. I followed you because of prophecy. But I stay because of conviction. What I saw in the archives confirms everything my ancestors preserved in secret. Their words eased something in Goku's chest, not the guilt, perhaps, but the isolation of responsibility. He wasn't carrying this burden alone. Thank you, he said simply, genuine gratitude in his voice. Then, with newfound resolution, "So what's our next move?" Syria gestured to the strange landscape around them. "First, we establish a secure position. The null zone is relatively safe from divine observation, but it has dangers of its own, fragments of erased beings that have coalesced into new forms, often hostile to anything representing the current cosmic order. And we need to determine exactly what we recovered from the archives," Alara added, already setting up her equipment on a relatively stable section of ground. "I managed to download approximately 3.4% of the accessible data before we were interrupted, focusing primarily on osmic structural vulnerabilities and the original laws predating the Grand Priest's revisions. We should also address our pursuit status," Torah pointed out practically. "By now, the Grand Priest has likely declared us cosmic fugitives. Anyone assisting us risks erasure themselves. Which means we need allies who have nothing to lose," Goku concluded, scanning the bizarre horizon thoughtfully. Quote, "Beings already hidden from divine authority are willing to risk everything for the truth." "My thoughts exactly," Syria confirmed with a slight smile. "And the null zone is home to many such potential allies, if we can convince them we're not agents of the Grand Priest sent to finish their erasure." As they spoke, Goku's heightened senses detected a subtle shift in the energies surrounding them. Song. Ethan was watching from the shadows between realities, something ancient, powerful, and deeply wounded. "We're not alone," he warned quietly, not moving suddenly or taking an aggressive stance, but preparing his energy internally. "Something's been observing us since we arrived." The others tensed, scanning their surroundings. The fragmented landscape offered countless hiding places, reality itself providing cover for whatever lurked beyond conventional perception. "Show yourself," Goku called out, his voice firm but not threatening. "We're not here to harm anyone." The silence stretched for several seconds, broken only by the strange ambient sounds of the null zone, crystalline chimes from the forest fragment, distant thunder from a perpetually storming section, the ethereal humming of RGY streams connecting disparate reality patches. Then the shadows between fragments deepened, coalescing into a humanoid figure that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Where features should have been, there was only a swirling darkness punctuated by points of light like distant stars. The entity stood taller than Goku, its form constantly shifting as if struggling to maintain coherence. "You bring the stench of divine authority to this sanctuary," the being spoke, its voice a discordant harmony of countless others speaking simultaneously. "Yet you claim peaceful intentions. Curious contradiction." Syria stepped forward, her divine nature evident in her bearing despite her diminished power. "We seek refuge from that same authority. The one you call the Architect has declared us enemies of the cosmic order." The shadowy figure tilted what might have been its head, the star-like points within its form realigning. "Former Supreme Kai Syria, thought erased with Universe 18. Son Goku, combat prodigy of Universe 7. Torah, last of the mystic Saiyan lineage. Dr. Alara Voss, dimensional trespasser." It paused, its form rippling with something like amusement. "An improbable alliance. The Architect must be genuinely concerned to have driven such disparate beings together." "You know us," Goku observed, studying the entity carefully. "But we don't know you. Names are complex constructs for one composed of many." The being replied, "I am fragments of thousands who were erased. Scholars, warriors, ordinary beings caught in divine purges. Some called me Cypher in the tournament. But here in the depths of the null zone, I am known as Nyx." Torah's eyes widened in recognition. "The Composite One, the entity formed from the collective consciousness of erased beings. But you're supposed to be a myth, a cautionary tale told to young gods." Nyx's form rippled again, this time with something darker. "Reality is often inconvenient for those who write official histories." Alara had been scanning the entity with her instruments, her scientific curiosity overriding caution. "Fascinating. You exist simultaneously across multiple dimensional planes. Your quantum signature suggests you're technically both alive and erased simultaneously. An astute observation for a human," Nyx acknowledged. "Now, explain why servants of the cosmic order have breached the null zone. Particularly you, Son Goku, one who has participated in the tournament of power that determined which universes would continue existing and which would be purged." The accusation hung in the air, heavy with implication. Goku could sense the hostility radiating from Nyx, not simple anger but the accumulated grief and rage of countless erased beings. I didn't understand then what I know now, Goku replied honestly, making no excuses. I believed what we all did, that the tournament was a test of worthiness, that the divine hierarchy existed for cosmic balance. He met the starlight points that served as Nyx's eyes. I've seen the truth in the archives. About the Grand Priest, about Zeno, about the entire structure of reality. And I've formally rejected that authority. Pretty words, Nyx responded coldly. But defiance requires more than declarations. What exactly do you intend to do, mortal? Restore what was wrongfully erased, Goku stated without hesitation. Create a new cosmic order based on truth rather than manipulation. And ensure no one ever again has unchecked power to erase entire universes on a whim. For several moments, Nyx remained utterly still, the starlight points within. Its form pulsing with increased intensity as if communicating internally among its composite consciousnesses. When it spoke again, there was a different quality to its multitoned voice, less hostile, though still wary. Ambitious goals for a being with a single lifetime of experience, it noted. Even with your unusual allies, you face virtually impossible odds. The architect has spent billions of years perfecting his control over cosmic structures. Impossible odds are kind of my specialty, Goku replied with a hint of his old confidence, though tempered now with understanding of the true stakes. Nyx moved closer, its form towering over Goku. Prove it. Prove your commitment beyond words. The darkness that comprised its body suddenly expanded, tendrils of void energy lashing out toward Goku with blinding speed. Rather than dodging or countering, Goku stood his ground. The dark energy engulfed him, creating a connection between his mind and the composite consciousness that was Nyx. Within that connection, thousands of voices cried out simultaneously, the final thoughts of beings as they faced erasure, the accumulated suffering of countless lives cut short not by natural cosmic cycles but by deliberate divine action. The experience would have overwhelmed most minds, but Goku's consciousness, enhanced by ultra instinct and the knowledge from the archives, withstood the onslaught. He didn't simply endure the connection. He engaged with it, his inherent compassion responding to each voice, acknowledging each loss, accepting the burden of witness. When the dark energy finally receded, Goku remained standing. Though visibly affected, his eyes held a depth that hadn't been there before, an understanding beyond his years or experience. So many, he whispered, voice rough with emotion. So many erased without cause. Without justice. Nyx's form had changed subtly, the chaotic swirl of its composition slightly more ordered, the starlight points aligned in patterns suggesting facial features. You endured the chorus of the erased without breaking. Few have managed that. There was newfound respect in its harmonic voice. Perhaps you are indeed the one the null zone has been waiting for. Does that mean you'll help us? Tora asked directly, still maintaining a defensive posture. She clearly didn't share Goku's willingness to trust the entity. It means I will not immediately destroy you, Nyx clarified, a hint of dark humor in its resonant tones. As for help, that depends on what you intend to do next. Syria stepped forward, addressing Nyx with the formal respect of one ancient being to another. We need a sanctuary within the null zone, somewhere to gather allies, analyze what we've learned from the archives, and prepare for the inevitable confrontation with the Grand Priest. And perhaps, Alara added, looking up from her instruments, a guide who understands the unique properties of this realm. Particularly how to utilize the primordial energy that exists here. Nyx considered this for several moments, its form shifting through subtle variations as its composite consciousnesses apparently debated internally. Finally, it extended an arm of darkness toward a distant section of the fragmented landscape where a structure of impossible geometry rose against the twilight sky. The confluence lies there, where fragments of 7 erased universes intersect, creating a stable pocket large enough for your purposes. Nyx's voice carried both warning and invitation. Many who dwell there will recognize you, Son Goku, as one who participated in the tournament that confirmed their erasure. Your reception may be hostile. I understand, Goku acknowledged solemnly. I'll face whatever judgment they deem appropriate. This response seemed to surprise Nyx, its form momentarily stabilizing into a more distinctly humanoid shape. Most interesting. The Saiyans of Universe 7 are not known for their humility or willingness to accept responsibility. I'm still learning, Goku replied simply. Nyx gestured toward the distant confluence. Then consider this your next lesson. Follow the path of coherent reality, straying into the unstable zones between. Fragments will dissolve your molecular structure beyond recovery. With that warning, Nyx's form dissipated into shadow once more, seemingly merging with the fabric of the null zone itself. It's pardon. G words echoed around them. I will watch your progress with interest, defiers of divine will. Prove your worth to the erased, and you may find allies beyond counting. Alone again, the four companions surveyed the treacherous landscape stretching before them. The path Nyx had indicated wound through a patchwork of reality fragments, some recognizable, others utterly alien to conventional understanding. Well, Alara commented dryly. Making final adjustments to her equipment before packing it away, that went better than my calculations predicted. There was only a 17% chance the entity wouldn't immediately atomize us. Nyx is wounded, angry, but not irrational, Syria observed. Like all who dwell in the null zone, it seeks purpose beyond mere survival in this half-existence. Tora's expression remained skeptical, or it's leading us into a trap. Beings formed from collective trauma aren't exactly known for their balanced judgment. Maybe not, Goku conceded, but we need guides in this realm. And Nyx needs hope that things can change. He started walking toward the indicated path, determination evident in his stride. Sometimes trust has to begin somewhere, even when it doesn't seem logical. As they journeyed through the fragmented landscape, Goku found himself walking beside each of his companions in turn, gaining deeper understanding of the women who had joined his impossible crusade against cosmic authority. Alara moved with precise efficiency, constantly scanning their surroundings with her modified equipment. When a section of path destabilized beneath them, she reacted with cool professionalism. Deploying small devices that temporarily reinforced reality around them. Quantum stabilizers, she explained briefly as they continued forward. Designed for interdimensional travel, though I never anticipated testing them in a place like this. How did you end up researching dimensional barriers in the first place? Goku asked, genuinely curious about the human scientist who had accomplished what should have been impossible. Something flashed across Alara's typically composed features, an old pain, quickly suppressed. My brother disappeared during a particle physics experiment 5 years ago. The official investigation concluded he'd been vaporized by equipment malfunction, but I found energy signatures consistent with dimensional displacement. Her voice remained clinical despite the personal subject. When conventional science provided no answers, I developed my own methods. Did you find him? Not yet. Alara's fingers unconsciously traced the edge of her gauntlet. But I found enough evidence of interdimensional manipulation to know someone was deliberately restricting our understanding of cosmic reality. Her eyes met Goku's briefly. Turns out questioning the fundamental nature of reality gets you noticed by entities who prefer mortals remain ignorant. Goku nodded thoughtfully. So this isn't just about scientific discovery for you. Nothing is ever just about one thing. Is it? Alara replied with unexpected philosophical depth. Yes, I want answers about my brother. But seeing how knowledge is systematically suppressed across dimensions, that's a larger injustice I can't ignore. She adjusted her instruments with practiced precision. Besides, the Grand Priest's model of reality is demonstrably inefficient. Even from a purely theoretical perspective, it offends me. Goku couldn't help but smile at that. The human scientist who found cosmic manipulation offensive primarily because it was inelegant mathematics. Later, as they navigated a particularly unstable section where crystal forest merged with what appeared to be a petrified ocean, Tora fell into step beside him. Unlike Alara's methodical movement, the Universe 6 Saiyan moved with fluid grace born of lifelong martial discipline, her awareness constantly shifting between potential threats. Your fighting style, Goku observed after watching her dispatch a pre-datary energy formation with a precise key technique. It's nothing like the Saiyans from either universe that I've encountered. Tora's expression revealed a flash of pride quickly tempered by solemnity. The mystic sect developed differently from mainstream Saiyan culture. While most focused on increasing raw power, we studied the fundamental nature of energy itself. Is that what the markings represent? Goku asked. nodding toward the runic patterns visible on her exposed arms and neck. Each is a complex formula expressing specific energy manipulation principles, she confirmed, unconscious. Sly tracing one intricate pattern near her wrist. They're not decorative, they're functional anchors for our techniques. When a distant howl echoed across the fragmented landscape, Tora reacted instantly, redirecting Goku down a different path with a firm hand on his shoulder. The casual physical contact would have been unthinkable for most Saiyans Goku had known, who typically maintained rigid boundaries except in combat. You're different from other Saiyans, he noted, not as criticism but with genuine interest. Tora's expression hardened slightly, because I was raised in hiding, by the saint survivors of a tradition that, officially, never existed. When my ancestors began developing techniques that could potentially challenge divine authority, the gods of destruction were ordered to eliminate us. Her voice carried centuries of inherited bitterness. Champa was more lazy than thorough. A few escaped the purge, passing knowledge in secret from generation to generation. That's why you recognized me at the tournament. Goku realized, not just from prophecy, but because you were watching for signs of interference. The tournament was unprecedented, gods publicly using mortals as proxies for cosmic decisions. Tora glanced at him with newfound respect. When you achieved Ultra Instinct, it confirmed what the ancient texts suggested, that artificial boundaries had been placed on mortal potential. Boundaries that could be broken under specific circumstances. They walked in silence for several moments before she added, more quietly, I spent my life preparing for a rebellion. That seemed increasingly impossible with each passing century. Finding you, it changes everything. The vulnerability in her admission, so contrary to typical Saiyan stoicism, revealed depths to Tor. That resonated with Goku's own journey beyond his race's limitations. As they approached a section where the path narrowed between unstable reality zones, Syria took the lead, her divine awareness allowing her to sense safe passage where mortal perception saw only chaos. Despite her diminished powers, the former Supreme Kai moved with graceful authority, occasionally murmuring words in an ancient language that seemed to temporarily stabilize reality around them. Those words, Goku inquired, fascinated by their effect on the environment. What language is that? The first tongue, Syria replied, her ageless eyes scanning the path ahead. The language spoken before diversification of the cosmic races, when all beings shared common understanding. A hint of sadness colored her voice. No, WL edge of it was restricted after the Grand Priest's ascension, deemed too powerful for non-angelic beings to possess. Yet you still remember it. I was old even before Universe 18's creation, Syria explained. Some knowledge becomes so fundamentally integrated that even partial erasure cannot remove it entirely. Goku studied her with newfound appreciation. How have you survived all this time? In the space between universes. Syria's expression grew distant, remembering eons of solitary existence. When I sensed the erasure wave approaching, I converted most of my divine essence into a temporal shield, sacrificing power for continued existence outside normal space-time. Her fingers absently traced patterns in the air, leaving faint luminescent trails. I became a watcher at the edges of reality, collecting fragments of erased knowledge, waiting for the cosmic cycle to create an opportunity for change. That's a long time to hold on to hope, Goku observed quietly. Hope is stubborn, Syria replied with unexpected warmth. It persists long after logic suggests it should fade. She regarded Goku thoughtfully. That's something you understand instinctively, isn't it? The erasure, persistence of hope against impossible odds. Goku smiled, recognizing the truth in her assessment. It's gotten me this far. By the time they reached the outskirts of the confluence, Goku had Ned deeper understanding of each of his allies, their motivations, their strengths, and the unique perspectives they brought to their shared purpose. What had begun as circumstantial alliance was evolving into something more complex and meaningful. The confluence itself defied conventional description. 7 distinct reality fragments merged here, creating a settlement of impossible architecture. Air structures from different erased universes coexisted in relative harmony. Buildings of crystalline spires stood alongside organic habitats that pulsed with their own rhythm. Ancient stone temples intersected with advanced technological complexes. And moving through this surreal landscape were beings of every conceivable form, many recognizable as species from known universes, others so alien at their very appearance challenged comprehension. It's beautiful, Goku breathed, genuinely awed by the diversity and resilience on display. It's what the multiverse could be, Syria observed quietly. Without artificial separation and hierarchical control. As they entered the settlement proper, the initial reaction was exactly as Nyx had warned. Recognition spread through the gathered beings, whispers and points. Expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. Several residents moved protectively in front of others, energy signatures flaring in defensive patterns. The tournament champion, someone hissed from the crowd. The one who fought for Xeno's amusement while our universes burned. Another voice joined in. Why is he here? Has divine authority finally come to erase even our fragments? The tension escalated rapidly, with several more powerful beings moving to surround Goku and his companions. Their energy signatures were unusual, fractured and incomplete, yet paradoxically complex in ways Goku had never encountered. We come seeking sanctuary and allies, Syria announced formally, her divine nature commanding attention despite her diminished state. Son Goku has defied the Grand Priest and rejected divine authority after learning the truth in the cosmic archives. Skeptical murmurs ran through the gathering crowd. A being composed of crystalline light stepped forward, apparently serving as spokesperson. Pretty claims, it stated, its voice chiming like glass bells. But why should the erased trust one who participated in their erasure? Words mean nothing. Here, only demonstrated truth has value. Then test me, Goku replied simply, stepping forward with open hands to show he intended no aggression. Judge me by whatever means you deem fair. The cry, Stalin being conferred briefly with others nearby, then gestured toward a central plaza where a circular platform of swirling energy pulsed with multispectral light. The resonance circle, it explained. Step inside, and it will connect your consciousness to our collective awareness. No deception is possible within the circle. Your true intentions and experiences will be laid bare for all to witness. A cold edge entered its chiming voice. Be warned. Minds that attempt deception within the circle are typically shattered beyond recovery. Without hesitation, Goku walked toward the circle, though Tora quickly caught his arm. This is dangerous, she warned in a low voice. The resonance circle is ancient technology from Universe 19, it wasn't designed for beings with your level of consciousness complexity. Do we have another option? Goku asked pragmatically. After a moment, Tora released his arm with reluctant acceptance. Just don't resist the connection. Let it flow naturally. Hero your mind rather than fighting to control it. Nodding acknowledgement of her advice, Goku stepped onto the platform. Immediately, energy surged around him, creating a swirling vortex of light. Had connected to every being in the confluence. His consciousness expanded exponentially, touching thousands of others simultaneously, experiencing their final moments before erasure, their confusion and terror. Their long existence in this fragmented state. Rather than shielding himself, Goku opened his mind completely, allowing them to see everything in return. His battles, his growth, his beliefs. His recent discoveries in the archives, and most importantly, his absolute commitment to challenging the cosmic order that had condemned them to partial existence. The connection was overwhelming. Far more intense than his earlier experience with Nyx alone. Thousands of minds examined his memories, questioned his motives, tested his resolve. Many were hostile, pushing against his consciousness with accumulated rage and grief. Others searched more clinically, analyzing his potential as an ally with cool detachment. Through it all, Goku maintained his center, neither resisting their examinati on nor attempting to influence their judgment. He offered only truth, including his own doubts, fears, and awareness of the tremendous odds against their success. When the energy finally receded and Goku stepped from the circle, the atmosphere in the confluence had transformed completely. The hostility remained in some quarters, but it was now countered by something new, cautious hope. The crystalline spokesperson approached, its internal light pulsing with increased intensity. You have shown us truth, Son Goku. Your defiance of the Grand Priest is genuine, as is your commitment to restoring what was wrongfully erased. It made a gesture that rippled through its crystalline form. The confluence extends sanctuary to you and your companions. A path cleared through the crowd, leading to A.S. structure at the settlement's center, an ancient temple whose architecture somehow incorporated elements from all 7 merged reality fragments. The Nexus Temple, the crystalline being explained. It stands at the most stable point of our merged existence. From there, you can safely analyze what you've recovered from the archives and begin planning your next steps. As they followed their guide toward the temple, Alara scanned the surrounding structures with evident scientific fascination. The interdimensional engineering here defies conventional physics. These beings have developed methods of reality manipulation that could revolutionize our approach. Out of necessity, Syria observed, when one's existence becomes fragmented across dimensional boundaries, conventional solutions no longer apply. The Nexus Temple's interior was a single vast chamber whose walls displayed constantly shifting murals depicting the histories of erased universes. At its center stood a circular platform, similar to the resonance circle but larger and more complex in its energy patterns. The concordance, their guide explained, a more sophisticated version of our public resonance technology. Here, disparate knowledge can be harmonized across dimensional barriers and consciousness types. It gestured to Alara. Your data from the archives can be analyzed more effectively here than through any technology from the existing universes. Alara approached the platform with professional interest, examining its structure without touching it. Remarkable. It processes information through consciousness itself rather than computational algorithms. The distinction between mind and technology is artificial, the crystalline being stated, as if explaining something obvious. Another limitation imposed by current cosmic structure. While Alara established her equipment around the concordance platform, Tora explored the shifting murals with evident recognition. These depict the original cosmic order, she explained to Goku, pointing to scenes showing a balanced council of divine beings rather than a single supreme authority. Before Zeno, before the current hierarchy, when creation, preservation, and destruction existed in equilibrium rather than dominance, Syria joined them, her ancient eyes studying the murals with personal recognition. I was young then, barely more than a divine apprentice. The Cosmic Council maintained balance through shared wisdom rather than absolute power. What happened? Goku asked, watching as the murals shifted to show increasing discord among the divine beings. Ambition, Syria replied simply. The lineage now represented by the Grand Priest believed that perfect order required centralized authority. They argued that free will and diversity inevitably led to chaos. Her expression darkened with ancient memory. When the council rejected their philosophy, they orchestrated what appeared to be a crisis of cosmic proportions, one that required unprecedented measures to resolve. The murals depicted this history, showing a figure similar to the Grand Priest seemingly saving reality itself from collapse, then establishing a new hierarchy with Zeno as figurehead and himself as true authority. By the time the deception was discovered, Syria continued, the new order was already established, opposition eliminated, and history rewritten to Porter. The coup is divine necessity rather than calculated power seizure. Goku absorbed this information silently, the full implications settling into his understanding. The conflict he'd initiated wasn't merely challenging current authority, it was potentially restoring the multiverse's original intended structure. So what's our first step? He asked finally, turning away from the historical murals to face the practical present. Analysis, Alara called from her position by the concordance. I've begun integrating the archive data with the concordance system. It's processing faster than anticipated. She looked up, an uncharacteristic expression of awe briefly crossing her features. And it's revealing possibilities I hadn't considered. Over the next several hours, the Nexus Temple became their command center. Alara worked with several Confluence scientists to extract and analyze the information stolen from the archives. Tora consulted with other surviving Mystic Sect members who had found their way to the Null Zone after erasure. Syria conferred with ancient beings who remembered the original cosmic order, comparing their recollections with the newly uncovered historical records. Goku, meanwhile, found himself approached by warriors from across the erased universes, beings with fighting styles and abilities he'd never encountered. Many challenged him to sparring matches, testing his abilities while simultaneously offering insights into their own techniques. Rather than refusing, he engaged with each one, learning and adapting with his characteristic battle genius. Your fighting style relies too heavily on reaction, observed a 6-armed being whose movements flowed like liquid mercury. In combat against divine entities, anticipation becomes essential. They exist partially outside linear time. Another warrior, composed of constantly shifting geometric patterns, demonstrated energy manipulation techniques that didn't simply release power but redirected cosmic forces themselves. Divine beings aren't truly invulnerable, it explained as geometric shapes rearranged themselves into attack formations. They've simply defined the conventional parameters of power to exclude methods that threaten their authority. By nightfall, or what passed for night in the perpetual twilight of the null zone, Goku had gained insights that transformed his understanding of combat beyond anything taught in the existing universes. The knowledge wasn't merely technical but philosophical, challenging fundamental assumptions about energy, form, and the nature of conflict itself. When he finally rejoined his companions at the Concordance platform, he found them gathered around a holographic display showing complex multidimensional patterns. We've identified 3 primary weaknesses in the current cosmic structure. Alara explained without preamble, highlighting sections of the display. First, the power distribution system is inherently unstable. Energy flows from a single source rather than a balanced network, creating potential cascade failures. Second, Tora continued, indicating another section, the separation between universes is artificial and requires constant maintenance. It's designed to prevent collective knowledge that might challenge central authority. And third, Syria concluded, the erasure process itself is flawed. It doesn't truly eliminate existence, it merely fragments and displaces it. As evidenced by this very realm. Her ancient eyes gleamed with newfound hope. Which means what has been erased can potentially be restored. How? Goku asked, focusing immediately on the practical application. Alara manipulated the display, zooming in on a specific section. The archives contained partial information about something called the restoration cipher, a theoretical method for reintegrating erased realities into the main cosmic structure. The Grand Priest apparently considered it dangerous enough to fragment the knowledge across multiple secured locations. So we need to find the missing pieces, Goku concluded, already anticipating their next objective. Yes, but there's more. Tora's expression grew solemn. According to this data, restoration cipher isn't just information. It's a physical key divided into 3 components, each hidden in locations specifically designed to be inaccessible to beings outside the divine hierarchy. What locations? Goku pressed. The first component is in the divine treasury beneath Zeno's palace, Syria replied grimly. The second is in the temporal vault guarded by the supreme Kai of time. And the third, she hesitated, is within the personal dimensional pocket of the Grand Priest himself. Silence fell as they absorbed the implications. Each location represented a nearly impossible infiltration target, guarded by the highest authorities in the multiverse. We'd need an army, Tora stated practically, and even then, the chances of success would be minimal. Not an army, came a resonant voice from the temple entrance. Precision, strategy, and power of a very specific kind. They turned to find Nyx standing in the doorway, its form more defined than before, still composed of shifting darkness studded with starlight points, but now maintaining a consistently humanoid shape with discernible facial features. You followed us, Alara observed neutrally. I observed, Nyx corrected, drifting into the chamber with fluid grace. There is a distinction. It approached the Concordance platform, studying the displayed information with evident interest. The restoration cipher. Many have searched for it since the first great erasure. Do you know something about it? Goku asked directly. Nyx's starlit eyes focused on him with unnerving intensity. I am composed of thousands who were erased. Some possessed fragments of knowledge about the cipher, theoretical concepts, rumors, legends. Its form rippled with something like excitement. But this, it gestured to Alara's display. This is the first concrete confirmation of its existence. That doesn't answer my question, Goku pressed, unintimidated by the entity's imposing presence. A sound like distant laughter emanated from Nyx's form. Direct, aren't you? Very well. I know that the cipher components aren't merely keys, they're conscious entities, created from the original cosmic energy that predates the current universal structure. The Grand Priest didn't hide them, he imprisoned them, specifically because they can potentially undo his carefully constructed reality. This new information changed their understanding completely. They weren't seeking objects but sentient beings, prisoners of divine authority. So our mission becomes twofold, Syria realized. Not just acquiring the cipher components but liberating conscious entities. Which makes it more complex but also more just, Goku stated with quiet conviction. We're not just challenging the Grand Priest's authority, we're freeing those he's wrongfully imprisoned. Nyx's form solidified further, the starlight patterns within its darkness arranging into an expression of unexpected respect. Your response reveals much, Son Goku. Most would focus solely on the strategic advantage, not the moral imperative. Freedom matters, Goku replied simply. For everyone, at every level of existence. Something shifted in Nyx's demeanor, a subtle but profound change that those gathered could sense rather than see. The composite entity made a decision. I will assist you, it declared, its harmonious voice now unified rather than discordant. Not merely as observer but as active ally. Nyx extended a hand of shifting darkness toward Goku. My knowledge of interdimensional travel and the consciousness patterns of erased beings may prove valuable in your quest. Goku accepted the offered hand without hesitation, feeling the strange sensation of touching existence that simultaneously was and wasn't physically present. Welcome to our rebellion, Nyx. With this new alliance formalized, their planning took on greater urgency and focus. The Concordance platform became the center of intense strategic development as they analyzed each target location in detail, identifying potential approaches and vulnerabilities. The Divine Treasury presents our best initial opportunity, Syria suggested, highlighting the relevant section of their dimensional map. Its security is primarily designed to prevent theft rather than unauthorized access. With proper temporal cloaking, a small team could potentially infiltrate during the Guardian shift change. The real challenge will be identifying the cipher component once inside, Alara pointed out. The treasury contains millions of divine artifacts accumulated over billions of years. That's where I can assist, Nyx interjected. Its form extending tendrils that interacted directly with the concordance data. The cipher components resonate with specific consciousness patterns, particularly those formed from erased existence. I can detect that resonance where conventional senses would fail. As they refined their strategy, Tora raised a critical concern. Before we attempt any infiltration, we need to address our power differential. Even working together, we currently lack the capabilities to challenge divine enforcement if detected. She's right, Goku acknowledged, remembering the overwhelming force the Grand Priest had brought to the archives. We need to train, not just in conventional techniques, but in methods specifically effective against divine entities. The primordial key, Nyx suggested. Stars shifting within its darkness. The energy that exists here in the null zone, it predates the current universal structure and operates outside the Grand Priest's defined parameters. Beings capable of channeling it can temporarily override divine authority within limited ranges. Is such training possible? Goku asked, immediately interested. Can mortals learn to control this energy? Difficult but not impossible, Syria replied thoughtfully. Especially for one who has already achieved Ultra Instinct, which itself represents a partial breakage of the artificial limitations placed on mortal potential. Nyx gestured toward a section of the Nexus Temple they hadn't yet explored, an ancient training ground where the laws of physics seemed even more flexible than in the rest of the confluence. The Crucible, it explained, designed by master warriors from 7 erased universes specifically to develop techniques beyond conventional limitations. If you can master what is taught there, you might stand a chance against divine opposition. Goku studied the training ground with professional assessment, noting its adaptive properties and the unusual energy patterns flowing through its structure. How soon can we begin? Immediately, Nyx replied, though I must warn you, training in primordial key techniques is unlike anything you've experienced. It requires not merely physical adaptation but fundamental reconceptualization of your relationship with energy itself. I've never backed down from difficult training before, Goku stated with quiet confidence. Then, looking at his companions, but this isn't just my decision. We're in this together now. Alara closed her technical displays with a decisive gesture. My equipment can continue analyzing the archive data autonomously. I'll join the training. My understanding of quantum mechanics might provide useful insights. The mystic sect techniques I've mastered are primitive precursors to what the Crucible offers, Tora added. Already moving toward the training ground with professional interest. This is an opportunity I never imagined possible. Syria nodded her agreement. My divine knowledge, limited though it now is, should help translate conceptual frameworks between different energy paradigms. With unanimous consensus, they moved toward the crucible, each bringing unique perspectives to the challenge ahead. The training ground activated at their approach, ancient machinery humming to life as it assessed their current capabilities and adjusted parameters accordingly. What followed was the Saint intensive training experience of Goku's life, and considering his history, that was saying something. The crucible didn't merely push physical limits, it fundamentally challenged how he conceptualized energy, form, and the nature of existence itself. Nyx proved a demanding but insightful instructor, its composite consciousness providing perspectives from countless warrior traditions across erased universes. It pushed them beyond conventional limitations through methods that often seemed counterintuitive to beings trained in existing universal paradigms. Conventional key manipulation operates within parameters established by the Grand Priest, it explained during one particularly grueling session. Primordial key exists outside those parameters, it doesn't respond to will or emotion but to consciousness resonance with the underlying fabric of reality itself. Days blended together in the timeless environment of the null zone. Each session in the crucible built upon the previous, gradually transforming their capabilities in ways that would have seemed impossible before. Goku's Ultra Instinct evolved beyond its original parameters, incorporating elements of primordial ki that allowed him to operate partially outside conventional temporal flow, similar to divine beings but with distinctly mortal adaptations. His silver-white aura now contained threads of colors that shouldn't exist in normal space, representing energy harmonics beyond standard universal frequencies. Tora's mystic sect techniques found their true potential, her runic markings glowing with new intensity as she shared energy transmutation methods that her ancestors had only theorized. She developed the ability to temporarily convert divine energy into neutral forms, essentially creating windows of opportunity against otherwise overwhelming force. Alara's technological approach merged with metaphysical understanding, her instruments evolving to detect and interact with energy patterns beyond conventional scientific paradigms. She created devices that could briefly stabilize reality against divine manipulation, creating safe zones where the Grand Priest's authority could be temporarily neutralized. Even Syria, limited by her sacrificed divine essence, found new methods of utilizing her ancient knowledge. She recovered techniques from the first tongue that could temporarily bind divine entities within specific dimensional parameters, preventing them from simply altering reality to escape confrontation. Throughout their training, relationships deepened and evolved. What had begun as alliance of necessity transformed into genuine bonds of friendship, respect, and in some cases, deeper emotional connections. Goku found himself drawn to each of his female companions in different but equally meaningful ways. Tora's fierce determination and warrior spirit resonated with his Saiyan nature, while her mystical perspective challenged him to grow beyond mere combat prowess. Their sparring sessions of 10 evolved into philosophical discussions about the nature of power and responsibility. Alara's brilliant analytical mind and unexpected emotional depth provided a counterbalance to his intuitive approach. Despite their different backgrounds, they found common ground in their determination to protect those they cared about, regardless of cosmic consequences. She taught him to appreciate the beauty in scientific precision. He helped her reconnect with intuitive understanding beyond pure analysis. Syria's ancient wisdom and profound compassion offered perspective that transcended mortal limitations without dismissing their importance. In quiet moments between training sessions, they would discuss the nature of existence itself, finding mutual understanding that bridged divine and mortal perspectives. Even Nyx, initially the most alien and distant of his allies, gradually revealed layers of complexity beneath its composite nature. The entity that had been formed from thousands of erased consciousnesses was developing something new, an integrated identity that retained its collective wisdom while evolving beyond mere amalgamation. These connections weren't without complications. Cultural differences, personal histories, and the sheer stress of their situation occasionally led to tensions and misunderstandings. Yet these very challenges strengthened their bonds, creating a team unif not by perfect harmony but by mutual respect and shared purpose. As their training in the crucible approached completion, representatives from throughout the confluence gathered to witness a final Demonstration of their new capabilities. The event took on ceremonial significance, a formal declaration that the rebellion against divine authority had moved from theoretical to practical. The demons. Trajan began with Goku showcasing his evolved Ultra Instinct, now infused with primordial ki. He moved through combat forms that shouldn't have been physically possible, his body temporarily existing in multiple states simultaneously as he transcended conventional limitations. When several Confluence warriors attacked simultaneously with their most powerful techniques, Goku didn't merely dodge or counter. He redirected the energy itself, transforming hostile force into harmonic patterns that danced around him like living artwork. Tora demonstrated her advanced mystic sect techniques, creating energy constructs that operated according to principles unknown in existing universes. Her runic markings glowed with internal light as she manifested forms that existed simultaneously in physical and metaphysical states, weapons that could potentially strike beings who existed outside normal material constraints. Alara activated her enhanced technology, creating fields that temporarily altered fundamental cosmic constants within limited areas. Within these fields, she demonstrated how divine authority could be briefly nullified, creating windows of opportunity for conventional forces to affect otherwise invulnerable entities. Syria spoke words in the first tongue that resonated with the very fabric of the null zone, temporarily stabilizing fragmented realities into coherent patterns that hadn't existed since before the Grand Priest's ascension. The ancient language flowing from her lips caused visible effects in the surrounding environment, restructuring chaos into harmonious order through sound alone. Finally, Nyx demonstrated its evolved capabilities, no longer merely a composite of erased consciousnesses but a new entity with unique powers born from its unusual origins. It moved between dimensional states with fluid grace, manipulating the boundaries between existence and erasure in ways that suggested potential applications against divine enforcement mechanisms. When the demonstration concluded, the gathered representatives of the Confluence remained silent for several moments, processing the implications of what they'd witnessed. Then, one by one, they stepped forward to pledge support for the coming conflict, offering knowledge, resources, and in some cases, direct participation. "The time for hiding is ending," declared the crystalline spokesperson who had first greeted them. "You have shown us that resistance is possible, that divine authority can be challenged through methods outside its defined parameters." What had begun as Goku's personal defiance had evolved into something much larger, a multiversal movement for restoration and freedom. Beings who had existed in fragmented form for eons now dared to hope for true restoration, for a cosmic order based on balance rather than domination. As night fell over the Confluence, Goku found himself standing alone on a high vantage point overlooking the settlement. The impossible architecture glowed with internal light against the perpetual twilight sky of the null zone, a testament to resilience against cosmic injustice. "Quite a view, isn't it?" Syria's voice came from behind him as the former Supreme Kai joined him at the overlook. "A civilization built from fragments, thriving despite everything designed to eliminate it." "It's inspiring," Goku agreed softly. "And humbling. I thought I understood what was at stake, but seeing all this." He gestured toward the vibrant community below. "You're carrying a heavy burden," Syria observed, studying his profile in the ambient light. "The hopes of countless beings now rest on our success." "Not just mine," Goku corrected gently. "Ours. I couldn't do this alone, wouldn't want to try." Syria smiled, genuine warmth in her ancient eyes. "You've grown, Son Goku. The warrior I first observed would have charged into battle relying solely on his own strength. Now you understand the power of true alliance, of shared purpose and complementary abilities." Before Goku could respond, a distant alarm sounded from the center of the Confluence. Red energy patterns rippled across the protective barriers surrounding the settlement, indicating some form of breach or attack. They rushed back to the Nexus Temple, where Alara was already working frantically at the Concordance platform while Tora and Nyx monitored defensive systems. "What's happening?" Goku demanded, immediately assessing potential responses. "Dimensional disturbance," Alara replied without looking up from her instruments. "Something massive is attempting to breach the null zone's natural RRIERS, something with divine energy signatures." "The Grand Priest?" Syria asked, her expression grave. "No, Nyx answered, its form rippling with tension. Enforcement angels, an entire battalion. Why have found a way to track our dimensional signature despite the null zone's interference patterns. The implications were immediate and alarming. Their sanctuary, previously thought undetectable by divine authority, was now under direct threat. How much time do we have? Goku asked, already moving toward defensive positions. Minutes at most, Tora replied grimly. They're using some form of real ITY anchor to stabilize a direct pathway into the confluence. Goku made an immediate decision. Evacuate everyone who isn't directly involved in our operation. Get them to the secondary safe zones we established during training. As alarm spread throughout the confluence, its residents mobilized with practiced efficiency, clearly accustomed to existing under threat. Evacuation protocols activated, with non-combatants moving toward predetermined escape routes while those with defensive capabilities took strategic positions. Our training isn't complete, Tora warned as they prepared to face the incoming threat. We haven't field-tested the primordial key techniques against actual divine entities. No better time to learn than under pressure, Goku replied with a flash of his old confidence. Though tempered now by strategic awareness. Besides, we don't need to win, just hold them off long enough for the evacuation to complete. They moved to the confluence's main entrance plaza, where E-dimensional disturbance was rapidly intensifying. Reality itself warped and twisted as divine force pushed against the natural barriers of the null zone. The air crackled with energy as sections of space periodically inverted, revealing glimpses of what lay beyond, armored angels with weapons designed specifically for erasure operations. They're breaching faster than calculated, Alara reported, checking readings on her gauntlet. Conventional defense perimeters won't hold. Then we create unconventional ones, Goku stated, stepping forward with newfound authority. Tora, establish mystic barriers using primordial key patterns. Syria, use the first tongue to stabilize our section of reality against external manipulation. Alara, deploy your quantum stabilizers at these coordinates. Indicated strategic points around the plaza. Nyx, our sensory advantage, track their entry points and predict attack patterns. Each moved to their assigned positions with professional precision, their training in the crucible translating seamlessly to practical application. As the dimensional breach expanded, a shimmering barrier of multiple energy types manifested between them and the incoming threat, not merely a shield but a complex system designed to temporarily neutralize divine authority within a limited area. The first enforcement angels emerged through the breach, being similar to Whis and other angels in basic appearance but modified for combat operations. Their traditional staffs had been transformed into weapons that pulsed with erasure energy, and their typically serene expressions were replaced with focused determination. By authority of the Grand Priest, this unauthorized dimensional enclave is scheduled for immediate purification, announced a lead angel, her voice carrying the harmonious tones characteristic of her kind despite the threatening words. Surrender the fugitive Son Goku and associated conspirators for timeline extraction. We reject your authority and your masters. Goku replied calmly, silver-white energy with impossible color harmonics flowing around his form. This realm exists outside divine jurisdiction by its very nature. Incorrect, the angel responded without emotion. All reality falls under the Grand Priest's administration, including aberrant fragments. She raised her weapon, which began gathering energy. Resistance will be noted in the cosmic record before your erasure. Now, Goku signaled, and their defensive system activated fully. Tora's mystic barriers intersected with Alara's quantum fields, creating zones WH. Air divine energy was temporarily converted to neutral forms. Syria spoke words in the first tongue that anchored their section of reality against external manipulation. Nyx extended its awareness through dimensional boundaries, providing real-time intelligence on angel movements and attack patterns. The enforcement angels launched their initial assault, precisely coordinated energy beams designed to erase targets from existence itself. Instead of attempting to block this unblockable force, Goku and his allies implemented techniques learned in the Crucible. They didn't resist erasure energy but redirected it through primordial key patterns, temporarily converting divine force into harmless light displays. The lead angel's expression showed the first hint of surprise, an emotion supposedly impossible for her kind. They're using pre-structural energy patterns. How is this possible? The impossible becomes possible when artificial limitations are removed, Goku replied, moving into offensive position. His evolved Ultra Instinct carried him between dimensional states, allowing him to appear simultaneously at multiple points around the angel formation. What followed was combat unlike anything in known universal history. Conventional descriptions of battle became inadequate as the conflict transcended physical limitations. Goku and his allies didn't merely exchange energy attacks with the angels but manipulated the fundamental properties of reality within their conflict zone. Tora's runic techniques transformed angel weapons into their component energy, temporarily disrupting their function. Alara's technology created localized field effects where divine beings were subjected to mortal limitations. Siria's knowledge of the first tongue temporarily bound angels within specific dimensional parameters, preventing them from simply altering reality to gain advantage. Nyx moved through dimensional boundaries, attacking from angles that shouldn't have been physically possible. And Goku, at the center of this impossible defense, demonstrated why he had always been feared by divine authorities. His combat genius, now enhanced by primordial key understanding and freed from artificial limitations, allowed him to analyze divine attack patterns and develop countermeasures in real time. He didn't merely react to angel techniques but anticipated them, countering strategies developed over billions of years with innovations created in moments of inspired adaptation. For several minutes, they successfully held the line against overwhelming force, allowing the confluence evacuation to proceed behind them. The enforcement angels, despite their ancient power and perfect coordination, found themselves challenged by methods outside their experience, techniques that operated according to principles predating their own creation. But the balance couldn't hold indefinitely. Divine reinforcements continued arriving through the dimensional breach, their numbers increasing beyond what even the most innovative defense could counter. Fatigue began affecting the defenders as they pushed techniques still new to them to their absolute limits. The evacuation is 87% complete, Alara reported during a momentary respite, her voice strained from exertion. We need approximately 6 more minutes for total clearance. The barrier is weakening, Tora warned, her runic maw. Our kings pulsing with diminished intensity. Primordial key patterns are difficult to maintain under sustained pressure. Goku assessed their situation with calm clarity. We need to change tactics. Defa, NSIVE containment isn't sustainable against these numbers. What do you suggest? Siria asked, her ancient voice showing rare signs of fatigue. Targeted offensive, Goku replied, already formulating the approach. We focus our remaining energy on the dimensional anchor they're using to maintain the breach. If we can disrupt it, they'll be temporarily forced back to their origin point. Possible, Nyx confirmed after a moment of internal consultation among its composite consciousnesses. But it would require a unified energy signature from all of us simultaneously, a harmonic convergence pattern directing primordial key at a single point. Can we do that? Goku asked, looking at each of his allies in turn. Theoretically, Alara replied, already calculating parameters on her gauntlet. The energy synchronization would need to be perfect. Even slight harmonic dissonance could backfire catastrophically. It's our best option, Tora stated pragmatically, already adjusting her runic patterns to support the new approach. Otherwise, we're simply delaying inevitable defeat. With silent agreement, they began repositioning for the coordinated strike. The enforcement angels, sensing the shift in defensive patterns, increased their pressure on the weakening barriers. On my mark, Goku instructed, gathering his evolved Ultra Instinct energy into a compressed form unlike anything he'd previously attempted. Channel everything into a single converged beam aimed at the dimensional anchor point. The others prepared similarly, each adapting their unique energy types to harmonize with the unified attack. Around them, the defensive barriers flickered dangerously as angels pressed their advantage, sensing imminent breakthrough. Now, Goku commanded. 5 distinct energy signatures, Goku's Ultra Instinct, Tora's Mystic Key, Siria's Divine Essence, Alara's Technological Field Manipulation, and Nyx's Composite Force, launched simultaneously toward the central point where the dimensional breach originated. Rather than simply combining, These energies interwove in complex harmonic patterns, creating a unified force that transcended its component parts. The combined beam struck He-dimensional anchor with perfect precision, causing immediate reality distortion throughout the conflict zone. Space itself seemed to fold inward around the impact point, colors inverting in physics. Laws temporarily suspending as primordial Ki interacted with divine technology in ways neither was designed to accommodate. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen beyond increased dimensional instability. Then, with a soundless explosion that registered more as consciousness disruption than physical force, the dimensional breach collapsed completely. The enforcement angels, suddenly cut off from their entry point, were violently pulled back through the closing rift, their expressions showing genuine alarm as they realized what was happening. As the last traces of the breach sealed, relative calm returned to the confluence plaza. The defenders remained in position, wary of potential secondary attacks, but the immediate threat had passed. Did we win? Tora asked cautiously, her combat instincts still on high alert. Temporarily, Syria replied, her divine senses extended to monitor dimensional stability. We've disrupted their entry method, but they'll develop alternatives. The Grand Priest doesn't abandon objectives once committed. At least we've bought time to complete the evacuation, Goku noted, allowing his energy levels to gradually normalize. The sustained use of primordial Ki techniques had left him unusually fatigued, not merely physically but at some deeper level of consciousness. Alara checked readings on her gauntlet. The evacuation is complete. All non-essential personnel have reached secondary safe zones. She looked up, her scientific detachment briefly giving way to genuine concern. But we have another problem. The dimensional disruption we caused has destabilized the confluence itself. As if confirming her assessment, the ground beneath them trembled, and several structures in the distance began to distort in ways that suggested fundamental reality breakdown. The confluence was already an artificial stability zone, multiple reality fragments maintained in coherence through careful balance, Nyx explained, its form rippling with evident distress. Our battle has disrupted that balance beyond recovery parameters. We need to leave, Syria stated urgently. When a multi-fragment reality zone destabilizes, the collapse cascades exponentially. This entire section of the null zone will become uninhabitable within hours. But where can we go? Tora questioned. If the angels found this location, they can potentially track us to any other point in the null zone. A moment of heavy silence fell as they confronted their situation, victory against the immediate threat overshadowed by the loss of their sanctuary and the uncertainty of their future movements. Then, unexpectedly, Nyx's form stabilized into its most coherent configuration yet, almost fully humanoid, with distinct facial features formed from arranged starlight points. I know where we must go, it stated with newfound certainty, its harmonic voice unified around a single tone. A location even the Grand Priest cannot easily access, the primordial wellspring at the absolute center of the null zone. Where the original cosmic energy still flows in its purest form. The wellspring is real, Syria asked, genuine awe in her ancient voice. I thought it merely a theoretical concept, a metaphorical source rather than actual location. It exists, Nyx confirmed. Though reaching it requires traversing dimensional barriers of increasing instability. Few attempt the journey, fewer survive it. Sounds like our kind of place, Goku commented, a hint of his old adventurous spirit emerging despite their circumstances. How soon can we depart? Immediately, Nyx replied, Xday. Nding tendrils of darkness that began mapping a path through the fragmenting reality around them. We must reach the dimensional threshold before full collapse begins, or we'll be trapped in dissolving space-time. As they gathered their essential equipment and prepared for yet another perilous journey, Goku took a final look at the confluence, the settlement that had briefly served as sanctuary, training ground, and symbol of resistance against cosmic injustice. Already its structures were beginning to distort as reality fabric unraveled, centuries of careful preservation undone in moments of violent conflict. We'll build something better, he promised quietly, though whether to himself or the displaced beings of the confluence wasn't entirely clear. Something that doesn't need to hide in fragments and shadows. With that commitment firmly in mind, he joined his companions at the settlement's edge, where Nyx was creating a pathway through the increasingly unstable dimensional boundaries of the null zone. The journey will be challenging, the composite entity warned as it finalized the route. Reality becomes increasingly theoretical as we approach the wellspring. Maintain consta. NT consciousness coherence or risk dissolving into component possibility states. In simpler terms, Goku requested with a slight smile. Don't let your mind wander, or you might literally wander out of existence, Alara translated dryly. With that concerning advice, they stepped onto the path Nyx had created, a narrow bridge of stabilized reality stretching across chaotic void where dimensional fragments collided and merged in patterns defying comprehension. Behind them, the confluence began its final dissolution, structures twisting into impossible geometries before fading from conventional existence. Ahead lay the greatest challenge yet in their defiance against divine authority, a journey to the very heart of the null zone, where the original cosmic energy still flowed in its purest form. And beyond that, the inevitable confrontation with the Grand Priest himself. Throughout the multiverse, ripples of their battle had already begun spreading, whispers of resistance against perfect order. Of mortals challenging divine decree, of the possibility that cosmic hierarchy itself might be fundamentally questioned. The Grand Priest, observing these developments from his position at reality's peak, abandoned his serene smile for the first time in eons. The rebellion had survived its first true test, demonstrating capabilities beyond his careful calculations. What had begun as a single Saiyan's defiance now threatened to become something far more dangerous, a fundamental challenge to the cosmic order he had spent billions of years perfecting. As the enforcement angels returned from their failed mission, the Grand Priest made his decision. The time for measured response had ended. The next attack would come not from proxies but from the architect of reality himself. The final phase of the conflict was about to begin. Chapter 3. Divine Revolution. The primordial wellspring existed in conceptual space rather than physical location, a paradox that became increasingly evident as the Y traversed the deepening layers of the null zone. Reality itself thinned around them, fundamental constants shifting from absolute to theoretical. Gravity expressed itself as chromatic waves rather than force. Light behaved as conscious entity rather than energy. Time flowed in spiral patterns rather than linear progression. Nyx led their expedition through this impossible terrain with newfound certainty, its composite form serving as both guide and stabilizing anchor. Where dimensional boundaries threatened to dissolve completely, tendrils of its darkness extended to create temporary pathways of coherent existence. Maintain consciousness coherence, the entity reminded them frequently as reality fluctuations intensified. Your self-concept is the only constant here. Doubt your fundamental nature, and you risk quantum dissolution. Alara, ever practical, had modified her equipment to project stabilizing fields around the group. Her gauntlets hummed with constant adjustments, algorithms evolving in real time to accommodate reality's increasing abstraction. Fascinating, she murmured, studying readings that shifted between digital and analog representations without consistency. See, conventional physics becomes merely optional suggestion here. Physics was always suggestion, Syria corrected gently, her ancient eyes perceiving layers invisible to the others. The rigid constants of the current multiverse are artificial constructs, parameters enforced rather than natural law. Tora moved with focused precision, her runic markings glowing with increasing intensity as they descended deeper. The mystical Saiyan seemed to navigate instinctively through reality distortions that confused conventional senses. My ancestors wrote of this place, she explained when Goku questioned her apparent ease. The final trials of mystic sect mastery involved conceptualizing existence beyond material constraints. Goku himself faced unique challenges during their descent. His consciousness, enhanced by ultra instinct and expanded by archive knowledge, perceived too many simultaneous possibility states. Where others struggled to maintain coherent self-concept, he grappled with multiple valid self-definitions trying to express simultaneously. Focus on your core identity, Syria advised, noting his difficulty. Not your power or knowledge, but the essential nature that remains constant. NT across all possible versions of Son Goku. The advice helped. By concentrating on his fundamental values rather than fluctuating capabilities, Goku stabilized his consciousness against the conceptual maelstrom surrounding them. His perception clarified, revealing their true progress through the null zone's deepest layers. After what might have been hours or centuries, conventional time measure NT held no meaning here. The pathway Nyx had been following opened into vast expansiveness beyond description. Not emptiness, for it contained everything. Not fullness, for potential remained its primary characteristic. The closest conceptual approximation in mortal terms might be pregnant void, existence in its nascent, preformed state. At the center of this impossible space floated a phenomenon that simultaneously appeared as infinitesimal point and boundless expanse, the primordial wellspring itself. "We have arrived," Nyx announced, its harmonic voice resonating with reverent solemnity. The origin point from which all reality streams emerge. They stood at the precipice of creation itself, the conceptual foundation upon which the multiverse had been constructed. Unlike the sterile perfection of divine realms, the wellspring pulsed with vibrant, almost wild energy. Patterns formed and dissolved in endless variation, expressing infinite possibility without constraint or direction. "It's beautiful," Goku breathed, genuinely awed by the spectacle. The energy flowing here felt simultaneously familiar and utterly alien, as if remembering something his consciousness had known before individual existence. "Pure potentiality," Syria explained, her voice hushed with recognition. "Reality before the Grand Priest imposed structural limitations, before concept crystallized into fixed form." Alara approached the edge of the phenomenon cautiously, her scientific instruments recording data that shifted between contradictory states. "This energy pattern, it's the theoretical state I calculated might exist before cosmic differentiation." Her typically composed features showed rare wonder. "The mathematical perfection is overwhelming. What exactly can we do here?" Goku asked, using on practical concerns despite the magnificence surrounding them. "How does this help us against the Grand Priest?" Nyx gestured toward the wellspring with newfound grace, its form now almost calm. Completely stabilized into humanoid configuration. "Three things the wellspring offers that exist nowhere else in creation: protection, rejuvenation, and reconfiguration. Protection because even the Grand Priest cannot easily access this realm," Syria elaborated. "The pure potentiality here resists the rigid structures he's imposed on the multiverse. Rejuvenation because the energy here can restore what divine power has damaged," Tora added, already removing her outer garments to reveal the complete runic patterns covering her body, including our own diminished capabilities. "And reconfiguration," Alara concluded, "because here, at creation's foundation, fundamental patterns can potentially be rewritten." She looked at Goku with uncharacteristic intensity, including those that establish cosmic hierarchy itself. The implications were staggering. They hadn't merely found sanctuary but potentially the key to challenging the Grand Priest on fundamental rather than merely tactical levels. "How do we proceed?" Goku asked, looking to each of his companions for guidance. This realm transcended his experience, requiring wisdom beyond battle instinct. "First, we must stabilize our existence within the wellspring's influence," Syria instructed, already beginning a complex series of motions that seemed to fold reality around her divine essence. "Each according to our nature." What full load was unlike any training or preparation Goku had previously experienced. Each of them engaged with the wellspring according to their fundamental consciousness pattern, forming unique connections to the primordial energy. Syria utilized divine knowledge from before universal restriction, speaking words in the first tongue that caused reality to crystallize temporarily in harmonious patterns around her. Her diminished divine essence began regenerating, not to previous parameters but to new configurations unrestricted by cosmic hierarchy. Tora activated her complete runic system, each mystic Al symbol serving as connection point between her consciousness and specific energy expressions within the wellspring. The markings shifted from mere surface patterns to four-dimensional constructs extending beyond conventional perception. Alara approached the process through theoretical framework, her technology serving as translation interface between conscious intent and energy reconfiguration. Mathematical formulations evolved from descriptive to prescriptive, her calculations actively influencing reality patterns rather than merely modeling them. Nyx underwent the most dramatic transformation, its composite nature finding perfect expression within the wellspring's domain. The thousands of consciousness fragments comprising its being achieved new harmony, unified without sacrificing individuality, becoming whole while honoring the distinct parts. Goku's process differed fundamentally from his companions. Rather than imposing structure on the wellspring's energy, he opened himself completely to its influence, allowing the primordial force to flow through him without resistance. Ultra instinct had prepared him for this approach, consciousness beyond thought, action beyond intention. The wellspring responded to his receptivity, energy spiraling through his being with increasing intensity. Knowledge transferred directly into his awareness, not as information but as fundamental understanding. He perceived the multiverse not as separate realms but as unified expression with artificial divisions. He recognized divine hierarchy not as natural order but as imposed constraint. Most significantly, he understood his own potential beyond the parameters established by cosmic authority. When the initial integration completed, all five emerged transformed. Not merely in power but in fundamental nature, their beings reconfigured to exist partially outside the Grand Priest's established universal constants. The changes are profound, Syria observed, studying each of them with divine perception now restored beyond its original capacity. We've been freed from certain cosmic limitations, but not made invulnerable, Torah cautioned, testing her enhanced capabilities with professional assessment. The Grand Priest remains functionally omnipotent within the established universal structure, which is why we don't fight him there, Alara concluded, reviewing data from her newly evolved equipment. We need to draw him into interstitial space where reality constants become negotiable rather than absolute. As they discussed strategic implications of their transformation, Movem and at the wellspring's perimeter caught their attention. Figures emerged from conceptual space, dozens, then hundreds of entities in diverse forms ranging from nearly conventional to utterly abstract. They arranged themselves in concentric circles around the central group, observing with collective focus. The Council of Watchers, Nyx announced, recognition evident in its now stable voice. I wondered if they would reveal themselves. Who exactly are they? Goku asked quietly, studying the gathering entities with cautious assessment. Their energy signatures defied conventional classification. Neither mortal nor divine but something beyond established categories. The oldest continuous organization in existence, Syria replied with evident respect. Beings from across all reality streams. Ho withdrew from conventional existence to observe cosmic developments without interference. Until now, apparently, Alara noted dryly. A figure separated from the assembled watchers, approaching with measured dignity. Its form shifted between various representations as if physical appearance were merely occasional convenience rather than defining characteristic. Son Goku, the entity addressed him directly, its voice simultaneously audible and conceptual. Your defiance has created ripple patterns throughout existential fabric that cannot be ignored. The Council has voted to end our non-intervention mandate for the first time in 7 cosmic cycles. Goku stepped forward, meeting the Watcher's multifaceted gaze without intimidation. Why now? Universes have been erased, beings have fared under divine manipulation for eons. What makes our resistance different? The Watcher's form stabilized momentarily into vaguely humanoid configuration. Because you've reactivated potentiality streams thought permanently suppressed. Your actions don't merely challenge current authority, they potentially restore the original cosmic balance established before the Grand Priest's ascension. They observed the artificial separation of universes, the suppression of collective knowledge, the enforced hierarchy that prevents true cosmic evolution. Another watcher added, its form a complex cry. Stalin structure pulsing with internal light. Observation without action was our chosen path, until emergence probability calculations indicated potential systemic collapse under current parameters. In simpler terms, a third watcher clarified, this one appearing almost conventionally mortal apart from eyes containing galaxy formations, the Grand Priest's perfect order is fundamentally unstable. The multiverse cannot indefinitely sustain artificial constraints against its natural evolutionary patterns. So you'll help us? Goku asked directly, cutting through philosophical abstraction to practical reality. We will provide context and opportunity, the first watcher replied with careful precision. The actual confrontation must come from beings with direct existential investment in the outcome. It gestured toward Goku and his companions. From you, the defiers of established order. What followed was unprecedented information exchange, the watchers sharing observations collected across billions of years from every corner of the multiverse. They revealed patterns invisible to conventional perception, connections between seemingly unrelated cosmic events, and most importantly, Vulnerabilities in the Grand Priest's apparently perfect system. The fulcrum point approaches, the crystalline watcher announced after knowledge transfer completed. The Grand Priest has departed His sanctuary for the first time in 17 cosmic cycles. He comes personally to eliminate what he perceives as fundamental threat to established order. How soon? Tora asked, immediately focused on tactical considerations. Time measurement becomes increasingly irrelevant at these conceptual depths, the Watcher replied. But translated to your reference framework, soon. Very soon. Then we need to prepare. Goku stated with quiet authority, gathering his companions with a glance. Not just for battle, but for fundamental confrontation with the very nature of cosmic reality. The Watchers withdrew to their observational positions, maintaining the concentric formation around the wellspring's perimeter. They would witness but not directly intervene, their role defined by cosmic principles even they could not violate. At the wellspring's edge, Goku and his allies formed their own circle, each bringing unique perspective to their final strategic planning. The coming confrontation will determine not merely their fate but potentially the fundamental nature of existence itself. The Grand Priest will expect conventional resistance, Syria began, her restored divine perception analyzing probability streams. Energy attacks, dimensional manipulation, perhaps temporal distortion. His countermeasures for these approaches have been perfected over billions of years. So we don't resist conventionally, Tora concluded, her mystical insight complementing Syria's divine knowledge. We utilize primordial ki to operate outside his established parameters. More specifically, Alara added, displaying complex calculations through her evolved equipment, we create harmonic interference patterns in his reality manipulation field. Not attacking directly but disrupting the fundamental mechanisms he uses to maintain cosmic control. Nyx, now fully integrated despite its composite nature, contributed unique strategic perspective. His primary advantage is singular consciousness express. Sing through multiple dimensional layers simultaneously. Our counter must be multiple consciousnesses converging on singular purpose with perfect harmonic resonance. Goku absorbed their insights silently, his enhanced awareness integrating tactical considerations with fundamental principles. When he finally spoke, his voice carried quiet certainty that commanded attention. The Grand Priest's power comes from defining the parameters within which reality operates, he stated, articulating understanding beyond his former limitations. Our advantage is operating outside those parameters, existing partially beyond his defined universal constants. He looked at each of his companions in turn, acknowledging their unique contributions with genuine appreciation. We'll need all our capabilities working in perfect coordination. Not just powers and techniques, but perspectives and approaches. As they refined their strategy, subtle distortion patterns appeared at the conceptual horizon, reality folding inward as something approached from beyond conventional dimensionality. The energy signature was unmistakable even at this distance, absolute authority expressed through perfect form. The Grand Priest had arrived. He's earlier than anticipated, one watcher observed, its crystalline structure vibrating with increased frequency. He detected the wellspring activation, another replied. Probability streams have accelerated beyond predicted parameters. Goku and his companions moved into defensive formation around the wellspring itself, each preparing according to their enhanced capabilities. This wasn't mere battle positioning but consciousness alignment, their minds connecting through primordial ki resonance to create unified response capacity beyond individual limitation. The dimensional distortion intensified, reality peeling back to reveal the Grand Priest in his true form. No longer limited by the benign appearance maintained for lesser beings, he manifested as conceptual authority given singular expression, perfect order personified through concentrated will. Interesting, his voice resonated across multiple consciousness layers simultaneously. You've accessed the wellspring. Most unexpected. Despite transcending conventional form, his attention focused clearly on Goku. Son Goku of Universe 7. You continue to exceed anticipated parameters. A fascinating anomaly. Why in an otherwise predictable multiverse? Goku stepped forward, facing cosmic authority without fear or arrogance, simply absolute conviction. This ends now. The deception, the manipulation, the errors. You're of entire universes to maintain your artificial order. Ends. Genuine amusement colored the Grand Priest's multidimensional voice. Nothing ends, Saiyan. Patterns merely reconfigure according to established parameters. Your defiance was anticipated, your resistance accounted for, your eventual erasure predetermined. If that were true, Goku countered calmly, you wouldn't have come personally. You would have sent enforcers. Maintained distance, preserved the fiction of detached authority. His eyes, now containing reflected constellations from the wellspring's energy, met the Grand Priest's infinite gaze directly. You're here because we represent something you didn't anticipate and can't control through conventional means. For the briefest moment, something flickered across the Grand Priest's perfect countenance, the cosmic equivalent of uncertainty. Perceptive, he acknowledged, his form shifting subtly toward more combat-oriented configuration. But perception without sufficient power remains merely interesting observation. With that statement, he extended his will toward the gathered defiers, not energy attack but fundamental reality reconfiguration. The space around them began shifting according to his absolute authority, universal constants realigning to erase their very existence from all possible timelines. But instead of disintegration, something unexpected occurred. The reality manipulation flowed around them like water around stones, unable to fully affect beings partially existing outside established parameters. Their wellspring transformation had created limited immunity to divine erasure, not absolute protection but critical resistance. Curious, the Grand Priest observed, genuine surprise evident in his multitonal voice. You've integrated primordial ki into your fundamental consciousness patterns. Ingenious adaptation. We've done more than adapt, Syria replied, her restored divine essence glowing with intensity beyond her original parameters. We've remembered what existed before your imposed limitations. The former Supreme Kai spoke words in the first tongue that resonated with the wellspring itself, creating reality anchors throughout the conceptual space. These anchors stabilized existence against divine manipulation, establishing neutral zones where the Grand Priest's authority became negotiable rather than absolute. Taken advantage of this momentary equilibrium, Tora activated her complete runic system. The mystical patterns covering her body transformed from two-dimensional markings to four-dimensional constructs extending through conceptual space. Each rune became connection point between individual consciousness and collective potential, channeling primordial ki through specific harmonic frequencies. The mist, IC sect techniques were never merely combat applications, she explained, her voice resonating through multiple reality layers simultaneously. They were methods for accessing original cosmic patterns before artificial separation. The Grand Priest's perfect expression showed the first hint of concern. The Saiyan mystical traditions were eliminated precisely because they threatened cosmic stability. You shouldn't possess this knowledge. Eliminated but not forgotten, Tora countered, her enhanced capabilities allowing direct challenge where no mortal should have stood chance. Knowledge sup. Rest returns with greater potency through each attempt at erasure. As Tora maintained reality stability through mystical techniques, Alara deployed her evolved technology throughout the conceptual battlefield. The devices didn't merely analyze reality patterns but actively influenced them, creating mathematical harmonics that interfered with the Grand Priest's perfect calculations. Your cosmic model contains fundamental inefficiencies, the scientist stated with professional detachment belying the situation's gravity. Forced uniformity creates exponentially increasing energy requirements for system maintenance. Calculated multiverse collapse within 7 cosmic cycles under current parameters. Mortal mathematics cannot encompass divine architecture, the Grand Priest dismissed, his attention clearly divided between multiple threats now. Your limited perspective mistakes necessary complexity for inefficiency. Limited perspective created multiple viable solutions where your singular vision found only one. Alara countered, her technology displaying probability calculations visible across dimensional boundaries. Diverse approaches generate superior outcomes across all measured parameters. While his companions engaged the Grand Priest conceptually, Goku approached the confrontation through characteristically direct method. His ultra instinct, enhanced by primordial ki and freed from artificial constraints, allowed him to move through dimensional barriers the Grand Priest had established around himself. He manifested directly within the divine being's innermost defensive parameter, not attacking with energy but confronting with presence. You fear disorder because you equate it with destruction, Goku stated, his voice carrying neither accusation nor judgment but simple observation. But true balance requires both structure and adaptation, both pattern and variation. The Grand Priest's response was immediate and overwhelming, pure authority expressed as multidimensional force directed at perfect erasure. Any conventional being would have been instantly removed from existence across all possible timelines. But Goku wasn't conventional being. His consciousness, partially existing outside established parameters, diffused the erasure attempt through dimensional refraction. The energy dispersed across multiple reality streams, creating interference patterns rather than destructive focus. Impossible, the Grand Priest stated, genuine astonishment breaking through his perfect composure. No mortal consciousness should withstand direct erasure imperative. I stopped being merely mortal when I rejected artificial limitations, Goku replied, maintaining position within the Grand Priest's defensive field. Just as you stopped being merely divine when you chose control over balance. This philosophical confrontation, mortal challenging divine not through power but through fundamental understanding, created momentary equilibrium in the cosmic conflict. The Grand Priest's perfect certainty faced unexpected resistance not merely from energy techniques but from conceptual challenge to his basic assumptions. Nyx utilized this moment of divine distraction to implement the most critical aspect of their strategy. Its composite form, now perfectly integrated through wellspring transformation, extended consciousness tendrils throughout the conceptual battlefield. These tendrils connected directly to the erased fragments existing in the null zone, billions of consciousness patterns preserved despite divine erasure. The erased remember, Nyx's harmonic voice resonated across multiple reality layers simultaneously. What was removed from existence maintains conceptual persistence through collective memory. These connections formed vast consciousness network extending beyond conventional reality, a counterbalance to the Grand Priest's singular authority. Not matching his power directly but creating alternative expression that cosmic architecture couldn't simply override. Recognizing genuine threat to his established order, the Grand Priest abandoned measured response for direct intervention. His form expanded exponentially, encompassing multiple reality layers simultaneously. Universal constants realigned according to his absolute will, fundamental forces reconfiguring to eliminate resistance. Enough, he declared, his voice resonating with finality that typically preceded universe erasure. This experiment in defiance concludes now. Divine energy cascaded through conceptual space in patterns designed for complete system not merely attacking the defiers but rewriting reality itself to eliminate possibility of resistance. The very foundation of existence trembled as perfect order asserted absolute authority. But at this critical moment, when cosmic annihilation seemed inevitable, the Watchers acted. Not through direct intervention, which their nature prohibited, but through consciousness alignment with the wellspring itself. Their collective observation created reality anchor extending throughout the multiverse, connection point between what was, what is, and what could be. The fulcrum moment arrives, their unified voice announced across all consciousness layers simultaneously. Choice point between singular authority and cosmic balance. This anchor provided critical opportunity for Goku and his companions to implement their unified response. Not attacking the Grand Priest directly but creating harmonic resonance pattern that interfaced with the wellspring's pure potential. Their 5 distinct consciousness types, mortal warrior, mystic practitioner, divine being, scientific mind, and composite entity, formed perfect pentagonal harmony channeling primordial ki through specific configuration. The FFECT transcended conventional reality manipulation. Instead of energy attack or dimensional distortion, they created fundamental awareness expansion extending throughout the multiverse. Every conscio, as being across all universes momentarily perceived cosmic truth directly, witnessing the original balance before artificial separation, understanding the imposed limitations maintaining current hierarchy. Recognizing potential beyond established parameters. This universal revelation created cascade effect the Grand Priest couldn't counter through conventional authority. His power derived from rolled information and separated awareness, collective understanding fundamentally undermined his systematic approach. What have you done? He demanded, his perfect form showing first signs of destabilization. The cosmic architecture cannot sustain unfiltered awareness across conscious entities. We've removed the artificial divisions between understanding and experience, Syria explained, her divine perception monitoring the cascading consciousness expansion throughout the multiverse, allowing beings to choose perspective based on complete rather than curated information. Chaos will result, the Grand Priest warned. Genuine concern evident beneath his authoritative tone. Without structured hierarchy, without controlled evolution, existence itself risks dissolution into formless potential. Or perhaps, Goku countered quietly, something new emerges, balance that incorporates both structure and freedom, both pattern and possibility. The cosmic conflict had transcended conventio. Null battle to become fundamental choice point for existence itself. Not good versus evil in simplistic terms, but differing visions for how reality should function. Perfect order through centralized authority versus dynamic balance through diversity and connection. Throughout the multiverse, consciousness patterns shifted in response to this choice. Gods and mortals alike experienced perspective beyond artificial separation, recognizing connections previously hidden by cosmic architecture. The unified awareness created feedback loop extending through dimensional boundaries, amplifying beyond the Grand Priest's capacity to suppress. Realizing conventional victory had become impossible, the cosmic architect made unprecedented decision. His perfect form destabilized deliberately, consciousness dispersing across multiple reality streams simultaneously. Not attack but adaptation, transformation from singular authority to distributed presence. If existence chooses new configuration, his voice resonated across dimensional boundaries, then I too must evolve beyond established parameters. This unexpected response created momentary uncertainty among the Defiers. Not victory or defeat in conventional terms, but fundamental system reconfiguration beyond anticipated outcomes. What's happening? Goku asked, sensing massive energy realignment throughout conceptual space. He's redistributing his consciousness, Syria explained. Divine perception tracking the unprecedented transformation. Not fighting the new paradigm but becoming part of it. Fascinating adaptive response, Alara observed. Her equipment recording data patterns shifting faster than analysis could process. Self-preservation through fundamental nature reconfiguration. As the Grand Priest's consciousness dispersed throughout multiversal fabric, new energy patterns emerged from the wellspring itself. Not replacement but complementary expression, different aspects of cosmic potential manifesting through diverse forms. From these patterns, entities coalesced, beings neither fully divine nor conventionally mortal but existing across categorical boundaries. Their forms incorporated elements from erased universes, preserved consciousness fragments, and newly expressed potential. The Cosmic Council reforms, the Watchers announced, their observation creating reality anchor for this unprecedented manifestation. Balance returns through diversity rather than unity, through connection rather than separation. One entity stepped forward, female in aspect, her form incorporating elements recognizable from multiple universal traditions. When she spoke, her voice carried authority without dominance, wisdom without separation. The experiment in singular cosmic governance concludes, she stated, addressing both the Defiers and the dispersed consciousness that had been the Grand Priest. Not through victory or defeat but through evolution beyond binary outcomes. She gestured toward the wellspring, causing energy patterns to reconfigure into visible representation of new cosmic architecture. The multiverse returns to council governance, not through centralized authority but through representative balance. Creation, preservation, and transformation in dynamic equilibrium rather than hierarchical arrangement. The implications were profound beyond immediate comprehension. Not merely change in cosmic leadership but fundamental restructuring of how reality itself functioned. Universal boundaries would remain but become permeable through conscious connection. Divine beings would maintain specialized functions but operate through collaborative rather than hierarchical relationships. Mortal realms would develop according to diverse patterns rather than predetermined templates. And what becomes of us? Goku asked practically, looking from the newly formed council to his companions. The Defiers who initiated this transformation. The female entity smiled, an expression conveying genuine appreciation rather than merely benevolent authority. You become what you have earned through courage and insight. Architects of transition, preservers of connection, representatives of potential beyond established parameters. She extended her hand, causing energy patterns to manifest around each of the 5 companions. These patterns didn't constrain but expanded, enhancing their unique natures while establishing new cosmic functions. Syria, once supreme Kai of erased universe, becomes keeper of original memory, preserving cosmic history beyond revisionist influence. The former divine being's essence stabilized into new configuration, neither diminished nor artificially constrained but perfectly expressed through chosen purpose. Torah of the mystic sect becomes bridge between traditions, harmonas, ing diverse knowledge systems through insight beyond artificial separation. The runic patterns covering her body transformed from personal technique framework to multiversal connection system, Lincoln. G. Disparate wisdom traditions across dimensional boundaries. Alara Voss, human scientist who perceived beyond established limitations, becomes pattern analyst, identifying emerging system potentials before manifestation. Her technological interface evolved beyond computational boundaries, becoming consciousness extension interfacing directly with reality formation principles. Nyx, composite being formed through erasure itself, becomes voice of the forgotten, ensuring no consciousness remains unrepresented in cosmic governance. Its form stabilized into perfect integration of collective and individual, thousands united through harmony rather than absorption. Finally, she turned to Goku. And Son Goku, whose defiance initiated cascade transformation, becomes boundary challenger, preserving dynamic tension between established parameters and evolutionary potential. The energy patterns surrounding him didn't grant new powers in conventional sense but established cosmic function matching his fundamental nature. Not divine authority but representative capacity, connection point between cosmic governance and individual experience. As these new roles manifested, the multiversal fabric itself began reconfiguring according to balanced principles rather than imposed structure. Universal boundaries remained but became selectively permeable. Consciousness connection extended across dimensional separation. Knowledge flowed through networks previously suppressed by artificial division. The transition will require time, the female entity cautioned, monitoring reality patterns with careful attention. Billions of years of established parameters cannot transform instantly without existential risk. We'll guide the process, another council member added, this one incorporating crystalline elements reminiscent of erased universal traditions, ensuring stability through change rather than stasis through control. The Watchers, their unprecedented intervention complete, began withdrawing to observational status. Their final unified message resonated across consciousness layers. The cycle renews through transformation rather than repetition. Observation continues through cosmic evolution. As the initial transformation stabilized, ripple effects extended throughout the multiverse. Beings at every level of existence experienced perspective shifts, not imposed understanding but expanded awareness allowing conscious choice. Gods reconsidered divine function beyond hierarchical enforcement. Mortals recognized connection possibilities beyond conventional limitation. Within this unprecedented cosmic reconfiguration, Goku found moment for personal reflection with his companions, the 4 remarkable women whose unique perspectives had transformed defiance into revolution. They gathered at the wellspring's edge, where reality remained sufficiently fluid for honest conversation beyond conventional constraints. Not merely allies now but profound connections transcending simple categorization. Syria approached first, her ancient eyes reflecting newfound purpose beyond divine limitation. When my universe faced erasure eons ago, I preserved consciousness without genuine hope, merely refusing to accept absolute end. She smiled with warmth transcending her formerly reserved demeanor. You transformed mere survival into meaningful existence again. We transformed it together, Goku corrected gently. Your knowledge made everything possible, connecting past wisdom to present action. Their hands met briefly, divine and mortal touching across categorical boundary with genuine appreciation transcending romantic simplification. Not lovers in conventional sense but souls connected through shared purpose and mutual respect. Torah joined them, her mystical perceptions allowing insight beyond physical interaction. The ancient texts described the boundary breaker in abstract terms, cosmic function rather than individual identity. Her expression combined professional assessment with personal warmth. They failed to mention your irritating optimism and reckless courage. Goku laughed. Genuine expression beyond cosmic concerns. Would you have followed a perfect symbol rather than flawed person? Probably not. She admitted, runic patterns shifting with emotional resonance beyond technical function. Perfection inspires distance, authentic struggle creates connection. Their relationship had evolved through shared battles and philosophical discussions, warrior bond transcending cultural differences. Not conventional romance but profound recognition between kindred spirits, expressed through both challenge and support. Alara approached with characteristic analytical precision softened by newfound perspective beyond pure rationality. My probability calculations indicated 0.0034% chance of successful outcome when I first joined this impossible venture. Her typically composed features showed rare vulnerability. I've never been happier to have my mathematics proven inadequate. Science adapts when evidence challenges theory, Goku observed, echoing her own words from earlier discussions. Isn't that what you told me? Using my own arguments against me is unfairly effective, she noted with mock irritation covering genuine affection. Their connection had formed through complementary approaches, her analytical precision balancing his intuitive leaps, his emotional honesty complementing her rational framework. Nyx completed their circle, its formerly chaotic form now harmoniously integrated while preserving distinct components. When we first encountered you at the confluence, many fragments comprising my consciousness voted for immediate destruction, it admitted with newfound capacity for humor. Your persistence proved, fortunately persuasive. Persistence or stubborn refusal to recognize impossible odds, Goku suggested with self-aware smile. Perhaps both simultaneously, Nyx replied, stars shifting within its darkness to form expression resembling affectionate amusement. Their relationship defied conventional description, connection between individual consciousness and collective experience, each recognizing value in the other's fundamental nature. As they shared this moment of personal connection amid cosmic transformation, the newly formed council approached with respectful distance, allowing completion before addressing practical concerns. The transition requires representatives throughout multiversal fabric, the female entity explained when they acknowledged her presence. Beings who understand both former structure and emerging potential. You want us to separate, Tora concluded immediately, her mystical insight perceiving implications beyond stated request. Temporarily, another council member clarified, his Orm incorporating energy patterns from multiple universal traditions, each performing specific function during critical stabilization phase. The request wasn't unexpected but still created momentary sadness, connections formed through shared purpose now redirected toward diverse responsibilities. Not permanent separation but necessary division of complementary efforts. How long? Goku asked practically, accepting cosmic necessity while acknowledging personal impact. Time measurement varies across dimensional interfaces, the female entity replied with genuine compassion beneath formal response. What constitutes separation from linear perspective may represent simultaneous connection through consciousness resonance. Not direct answer but honest acknowledgement of complex reality. Their roles would require physical distance while maintaining conceptual connection, separate functions within unified purpose. They accepted this cosmic responsibility without resentment but with clear awareness of personal sacrifice involved. Each would fulfill essential function during universal transition while maintaining connection beyond physical proximity. This isn't goodbye, Goku stated with characteristic certainty, looking at each companion in turn. Just different aspects of the same journey. Syria nodded, ancient wisdom accepting necessary transition. The connections formed through shared purpose transcend conventional proximity. Besides, Tora added with warrior practicality, reformed cosmic architecture allows consciousness contact across dimensional boundaries. Distance becomes relative rather than absolute. And my equipment can maintain quantum entanglement connections regardless of spatial separation, Alara contributed, technological solution reflecting personal desire for continued contact. Nyx's response transcended conventional reassurance. My consciousness exists partially beyond spatial limitation. Connection remains constant regardless of physical distribution. With these affirmations of continued relationship despite necessary separation, they accepted their cosmic assignments. Each would guide specific aspects of multiversal transformation according to their unique capabilities and perspectives. Syria would restore knowledge preserved from erased universes, reintegrating wisdom artificially separated from cosmic memory. Her function extended throughout dimensional fabric. establishing connection points between diverse knowledge systems previously kept isolated. Torah would guide restoration of mystical traditions systematically suppressed under previous regime. The mystic sect techniques represented merely one expression of approaches deliberately eliminated to maintain artificial hierarchy. Alara would establish new scientific framework, incorporating both rational analysis and consciousness interaction. Her function included developing communication systems allowing knowledge sharing across dimensional boundaries without artificial constraint. Nyx would facilitate reintegration of erased fragments into renewed cosmic architecture, not merely restoring what was lost but incorporating diversity into strengthened wholeness. Its composite nature made possible connections between consciousness patterns previously considered incompatible. Goku's role perhaps most directly reflected his fundamental nature, challenging boundaries between established categories. Maintaining dynamic tension between structure and evolution, embodying potential beyond artificial limitation. As they prepared for temporary separation, final fare, Wells expressed connections that transcended conventional relationships. Not merely romantic attachments or strategic alliances but profound soul recognition, beings who had faced cosmic transformation together and emerged fundamentally changed through shared experience. The multiverse itself provided canvas for their parting, reality fabric manifesting visual representation of their emotional connections. Not merely subjective feeling but objective energy patterns visible across dimensional boundaries. When they finally departed toward respective responsibilities, no sadness dimmed their purpose. The connections formed through shared defiance remained constant despite physical separation, resonance patterns extending beyond spatial limitation. Throughout the multiverse, awareness of cosmic transformation extended across consciousness layers. Not immediate understanding but gradual recognition that fundamental reality parameters had shifted. Universal boundaries remained but became select, permeable through consciousness connection. Knowledge flowed across dimensional separation through newly established networks. Divine beings maintained specialized functions but operated through cooperative rather than hierarchical relationships. The Grand Priest's consciousness, dispersed throughout multiversal fabric, gradually reintegrated in transformed configuration. Not singular author, but distributed presence, cosmic architect evolving beyond imposed perfection toward adaptive balance. His knowledge and function remained essential to universal maintenance but expressed through cooperation rather than domination. Zeno, revealed as constructed entity rather than genuine Omni-King, underwent fundamental reconfiguration. The childlike container transformed as its true nature RGED, not supreme ruler but specialized function within balanced system. Its erasure capability remained but operated through council governance rather than individual whim. Gods of destruction and Supreme Kais discovered new relationship patterns beyond artificial opposition. Their complementary functions found expression through cooperation rather than mere tolerance, creating dynamic balance rather than enforced separation. Angels, freed from absolute subservience to hierarchical structure, developed individual consciousness variations while maintaining cosmic function. Their nature evolved beyond perfect tools toward genuine participants in universal governance. Mortals throughout the multiverse experienced expanded awareness beyond conventional limitations. Not imposed enlightenment potential connection, consciousness resonance available through choice rather than deterministic structure. Some embraced this potential immediately, others approached cautiously through gradual exploration. Both paths represented valid expressions within new cosmic architecture. Universes previously erased began gradual restoration, not instantaneous return but careful reintegration preserving IQ contributions while preventing system destabilization. The restoration cipher, released from divine imprisonment, facilitated this process through consciousness patterns rather than merely physical reconstruction. The transition unfolded across temporal scales incomprehensible to conventional perception, simultaneously immediate and gradual, instant and eternal. Cosmic architecture evolved dynamic adaptation rather than static replacement, preserving valuable structures while eliminating artificial constraints. One particular consciousness observed these cosmic changes from unique perspective, former angel attendant, now evolution guide. Neither fully conforming to previous role nor completely transformed, he maintained observational distance while facilitating transitional understanding. Fascinating development, he remarked to Beerus, who struggled more significantly with paradigm adjustments. The multiverse discovers balance through diversity rather than uniformity. HMPH. The former god of destruction grumbled, whiskers twitching with mixed irritation and reluctant interest. And we're supposed to just accept this cosmic revolution without complaint. Axe. PT or reject according to genuine choice rather than imposed function, was replied with characteristic serenity, now reflecting authentic perspective rather than merely professional demeanor. That's rather the point of the transformation, isn't it? Beerus contemplated this freedom with suspicious assessment. And Goku initiated all this. That battle-obsessed Saiyan somehow triggered cosmic restructuring. He provided catalyst through defiance beyond established parameters, Whis corrected mildly. But transformation required diverse consciousness types working in harmonic resonance. No sin Glay entity could have achieved this outcome independently. Still, Beerus muttered, using chopsticks one day, reshaping cosmic hierarchy the next. Mortals develop at alarming rates when artificial constraints are removed. Whis merely smiled, neither confirming nor denying this assessment. His own perspective had evolved beyond simple categories like mortal and divine, seeing instead consciousness variations expressed through diverse forms. The distinction that once seemed fundamental now appeared increasingly arbitrary, useful shorthand rather than absolute truth. Across the multiverse, Alar conversations unfolded as beings at every level adjusted to expanded perspective. Some embraced change enthusiastically, others approached cautiously. Both responses represented valid adaptations within new cosmic architecture that valued diversity rather than uniformity. Throughout these transformations, Goku and his companions maintained consciousness connection despite physical separation. Their unique bond, forged through cosmic defiance and strengthened through shared purpose, extended beyond conventional limitations. Not merely emotional attachment but fundamental recognition, souls who had faced universal transformation together and emerged profoundly connected through shared experience. Periodically they would reunite at the wellspring, where reality remained sufficiently fluid for direct communion beyond physical constraint. During these gatherings, they shared experiences from their diverse cosmic functions, each contributing unique perspective to collective understanding. Syria brought wisdom from restored knowledge systems, ancient perspectives reconnected to cosmic memory after eons of artificial separation. Torah shared insights from reintegrated mystical traditions, approaches to reality transcending conventional categorization. Alara contributed discoveries from new scientific paradigms incorporating consciousness interaction beyond mechanistic models. Nix of fared perspective from erased fragments gradually reincorporated into cosmic fabric, diversity strengthening systemic resilience. Goku listened with genuine appreciation, his own experiences challenging boundaries between established categories providing complementary perspective. Together they formed reflection of cosmic transformation itself, diverse approaches unified through mutual respect and shared purpose. These connections transcended simple romantic categorization without diminishing genuine intimacy. Their relationships encompassed respect, affection, philosophical alignment, and soul recognition, complex bonds beyond conventional limitation. Each connection expressed unique harmonic pattern rather than standardized template, reflecting cosmic diversity within personal interaction. As transformation stabilized across multiversal fabric, their separate responsibilities gradually shifted toward collaborative function. The necessity for physical separation diminished as new cosmic architecture achieved sustainable equilibrium. Their relationships evolved accordingly, maintaining unique connections while allowing increased proximity. Eventually, they established shared sanctuary at multiversal intersection point, neither fully within nor completely outside conventional reality. This unique location allowed each to maintain cosmic function while experiencing genuine community beyond artificial separation. The sanctuary became both personal haven and functional nexus, connection point where diverse beings could experience perspective beyond established limitations. Not forma, governance center but influential example, living demonstration that diversity strengthened rather than threatened cosmic harmony. Through their example, the transformed multiverse witnessed relationship possibilities beyond artificial constraints. Divine and mortal, individual and collective, scientific and mystical, categories remained useful without becoming absolute limitations. Consciousness. Connection transcended conventional boundaries without eliminating valuable distinctions. Throughout established universes and newly restored realms, beings observed these developments with various responses. Some embraced expanded perspective immediately, others approached cautiously through gradual exploration. Both paths represented valid expressions within cosmic architecture valuing diversity rather than uniformity. The fundamental nature of existence itself evolved through this transformation, not replacing previous reality but expanding potential beyond artificial limitation. Universal constants remained while becoming responsive rather than absolute. Divine functions continued while incorporating collaboration rather than mere hierarchy. Mortal realms developed according to diverse patterns rather than predetermined templates. Across countless worlds, the effects rippled through daily existence in ways both profound and subtle. On Earth, where Goku's journey had begun, awareness expanded without disrupting life's fundamental rhythms. People still loved, worked, struggled, and celebrated, now with potential connection beyond conventional limitations available through conscious choice rather than imposed enlightenment. Goku's original family and friends experienced this transformation through personal lens, their relationships with him evolving beyond conventional expectations. Not replacement but expansion, connections maintaining valuable history while incorporating new understanding. His periodic returns to Earth brought both familiar comfort and transformed perspective. Bridges between established patterns and emerging potential. Throughout the multiverse, similar adaptations unfolded as beings adjusted to expanded reality parameters. The transition continued across temporal scales beyond conventional measurement, simultaneously complete and ongoing, finished and eternal. Within this transformed cosmic architecture, Goku and his companions represented living demonstration of fundamental principle underlying universal restructuring, diverse consciousness types achieving harmony through mutual respect rather than imposed uniformity. Their relationships, complex, evolving, transcending simple categorization, reflected cosmic balance through dynamic connection rather than static perfection. The revolution they had initiated continued unfolding through consciousness evolution rather than mere structural replacement. Not final state but ongoing process, dynamic balance maintained through continuous adaptation rather than rigid stability. As new cosmic cycle established sustainable patterns, one fundamental truth emerged with increasing clarity: perfect order represented merely one expression of cosmic potential rather than absolute ideal. True harmony incorporated both structure and adaptation, both pattern and variation, both unity and diversity, balance achieved through dynamic relationship rather than imposed uniformity. The multiverse, freed from artificial constraints, began exploring potential beyond predetermined limitations. Not chaos but creative emergence, complex order arising through relationship rather than control. Universal expansio continued through consciousness evolution as well as physical expression, reality itself growing through dynamic adaptation rather than merely existing through static maintenance. And through it all, the connections formed through cosmic defiance remained, testament that relationships transcending conventional categories could embody universal principles at personal scale. Not perfect manifestation but authentic expression, beings discovering shared purpose through mutual respect and genuine appreciation. The revolution continued. ___. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.